Hey, Tim Dillon.
How are you?
I'm much better now that the ladies are back from space.
Thank you for having me. What were they up there, 10 minutes?
Well, it was very profound. I don't know if you've seen Katy Perry talk about it, but she's basically a guru now.
Yeah. What were her findings? That's my question.
Well,
what did she learn?
Daisy, which is super important. It shows you how quick the flight was. The dead daisy that's like snipped from its life source was still alive or still vibrant.
Yeah, and it's
Look
always
at her. Shout out Daisy.
Wow.
Look at her nails. So pretty.
Now, so they go up there and they float for like 10 minutes?
At least.
And then they come down.
Let's not minimize this.
No, I know. It's a big deal.
Let's celebrate female astronauts.
And because they were united.
Because a lot of men astronauts, they have to go to school.
Right.
They have to learn how to be a pilot first. Then they have to join the Air Force or the Navy. And then they get appointed by NASA.
That's right.
And then they go to space. You know?
And there has been, that's the other thing, there has been female astronauts.
Let's not minimize this. Let's not minimize this.
Yeah,
what
like
they
I
did
think
is
there was a
extraordinary.
bitch stuck on a space station for a few months. That's terribly more impressive.
Let's not minimize this. No, the problem with that story is that she was rescued by a very awful person who wants to expose fraud and waste.
Yes. Did Musk rescue her?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Where's that in the news?
Oh, I didn't know
Those
that.
fucking people were stuck. The Boeing jet, the Skyline, whatever the fuck it is, the Boeing spaceship, wasn't working. They couldn't fix it.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and by the way, Elon could have rescued them during the Biden administration. They didn't want to because of his open support for Trump. So they left those people up there. Yes. He's talked about it on my podcast. They left those people up there.
And they're just chilling.
No, they're dying.
Right.
It's like slow radiation poisoning. It's like getting 10 x-rays a day.
And they're
You're just slowly getting sapped of your life force out there in no gravity. Your bones are weakening. Did you see that lady's face when she came back?
She didn't look great.
Bro, something had happened, like her chin had grown. Like
she looked
her chin was extended and her hair had all turned gray.
She looked like she was sick.
She was sick.
Yeah.
You're dying up there, man.
That's crazy.
I had Commander Chris Hadfield on, and he was at one point in time the longest person that had been in space from, wasn't he? It's like he was there for like 6 months. And he was saying it was unbelievable, like how difficult it was to recover once you get back to Earth. He couldn't walk. It was just like a total vertigo. Like his whole body was like so not used to gravity. All of his bones were weak. All of his muscles were weak.
But these bitches seem fine, these ladies.
Well, for now. Let's not minimize. Let's not minimize the sacrifice they made for a great nation. For the world, in fact. For the world. They're profoundly different. They're profoundly different now.
To show people. Well, it's inspiring.
That's what I'm saying.
It's inspiring. If a guy who's worth what, $1 trillion, several billion, 100 billion.
Yeah, just imagine the conspiracies if they didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, Pete, there's already people saying that they faked it, which I think is silly.
Well, I love those people,
but it's great.
Those are the people that think space is fake.
That's right. Yeah, but they're already people going, well, they faked it, and I'm like, I hope they fake something better than that. I hope. If they're faking stuff, and they probably are faking some stuff, God, I hope they're faking stuff that's better than that.
I think this is the confusion. I think the confusion is that they essentially got to the threshold of space. They did not get like way out there where re-entry is very traumatic. And it has like, if you see like those heat shields that they put all over those things, and if they break off on the re-entry, everybody dies.
Right.
That's because you're way out there and the amount of heat that gets generated as you're re-entering the atmosphere. I think they're essentially like on the border of the atmosphere. Let's see, how high did they go up there?
62 miles. They go above that line. It's called like the Kármán line or something.
So the space shuttle goes.
They went a little higher than that Rocket Man documentary. That guy who shot himself up in a rocket. They went like a few feet higher than that guy.
Yeah.
R.I.P. That guy. Drove by his grave on the way to Vegas when L.A. burned down.
Are they even like technically actually in space?
I think that's where it floats. That's the line.
I might go there. I might do that. I wouldn't go to space, but I might do the 80 miles.
Do that.
So 350 miles is the highest anyone has ever gone other than the Apollo astronauts. 62 miles.
Kilometers.
Okay, 62 miles ain't shit, dude. I drive that in an hour. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's, by the way, I agree with you.
It's not that far. That's not even here to San Antonio. 62 miles ain't shit. But it is kind of technically space.
So they get up there and they look at the Earth?
Yeah, that's why like everybody's calling bullshit on the outside of the capsule.
Right.
That it wasn't like completely on fire and
Right.
like, destroyed. Just because they didn't go that high.
They didn't go that high.
That's all it is.
Right.
But they did go to space,
They
technically.
went to space and they lost gravity.
The funniest thing is they come back and you need a parachute to land.
Right.
Like at all the technology Elon has. Elon is catching rockets
What could-
with robot arms. Clamp.
What could go wrong in something like that?
Oh, it could explode on the way up for
Oh.
sure. Yeah, the way up is not ensured that those things are definitely going to hold it together.
So
You-
that's the biggest risk.
yeah, you have these cannons filled with rocket fuel that are burning at like twice the what is the temperature of rocket fuel when it's hot? Is it like it's like close to the surface of the sun or some crazy shit. Like what's the actual temperature? So everything has to be contained while you have insane amounts of fuel burning every second. And huge plumes of flame, enormous thrust
Right.
to escape Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
You're just hoping all those O-rings and all the shit that blew up with the Challenger.
So it could have blown up.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Musk has openly said some of these are going to blow up when he's testing them. When
Right.
like when they would blow up, you're like, oh, Elon failed again. Like, no, we want it to fail because
Yeah.
we want to find out what is the threshold. Like, what? There's only one
I
way to
wonder
find
if
out.
all of them were they? You think they were like prepared to die? No.
Katy Perry was prepared to die.
Yeah,
That's why
she in
brought
her
the daisy.
eyes something's off.
She looked like a soldier.
Something's off with her.
No, it's good.
What about the hatch though? Wasn't that kind of sketch?
She has a Muhammad Ada
that's the only
look
thing
to
I
her.
get.
Well,
her
I
eyes.
think the problem is that the hatch is not a real hatch like a spaceship because it's not really going to space.
There's no captain. There's no pilot.
Right.
There's nobody going.
Exact the mundo. All the above. So
Okay.
it's most hatches in that regard. They open outwardly so that the pressure of space travel, like when you're shooting that fucking rocket up insane amounts of gravity, doesn't make the door hinges fail and it collapses in on itself and then everybody dies.
Right.
Right. So they have to open outward.
Right.
Right. So the pressure would keep them shut. So generally, like there's like a seal, and it's really kind of crazy. Like I have a friend of mine, very wealthy businessman, who brings me over his house the other day. He goes, I want to show you something. And he shows me this diagram. He said, this is from the 1950s. And this is the blueprint for the recreation UFO that they made when they tried to back engineer the one that they found at Roswell.
And they had this was a diagram.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it had a crank handle like a submarine door. You know?
And
So-
they were trying to replicate a craft that had landed, crashed.
Yes. Yeah. He thinks they did.
Wow.
He doesn't think it's a try. He said this is the blueprint because it had the actual, by the way, the exact generator in the center of it that Bob Lazar described
Yeah.
in 1989 when he worked at Area S4.
What layer of the government do you think is working on projects like that? Like, is it all the DARPA people?
I think it's people that are completely disconnected from congressmen, senators, presidents.
Right.
It's all
Right.
deep state. Because it's all
Right.
people
They
that
have
are-
to be like, they probably belong to an agency without a name.
Well, there's probably a bunch of those. And,
Right.
And when it comes to this kind of stuff, like we already know now because of Doge that there was money that was going with no receipts, billions and billions of dollars that was just flying out with no receipts. They have no idea where it went. And Elon openly said, if this was a public company, it would be delisted and
Yeah.
the people who ran it would go to prison. But because it's the government, you're like, oh, I don't know what we did. We just, they have no
Do you
receipts.
think
That could be going to it.
you think they'll bring charges against anyone for fraud?
That's the worry about disclosure.
'Cause
And
that's
I
what-
think that's what's holding it back.
I think people needs concrete stuff.
Yeah. You want to
know.
see concrete? Let's hear Katy Perry talk about
Right.
going to space. Yeah, I'm going to send you one. I sent you a few this morning. I said, let's discuss.
I chatted about it on my show. I saw her say something about we weren't taking space, we're making space.
That's the one I want to say.
Which I thought was an interesting scientific.
It's not this one.
No. I got another one. I got some better ones.
What is funny is immediately after
actually,
they landed.
that one's pretty good.
It is funny to do something like this, and then everyone hates you. Like everyone hates them.
They shouldn't hate her. Oh no, that's not it, Jamie. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, this one has all of them.
I have so many of them. I don't think that one has the making space. Try this one. It's so fun when people. Why is it so fun when people get pretentious? I guess because you're terrified that you would ever do it.
Well, yeah, and I also think it's fun to see somebody who has no self-awareness.
Yeah.
They're always the most fun.
I will never be the same. I mean, when you get up there and you see the earth, and it's so beautiful, and it just fills the screen, and it's not just your window. It's like everybody's window, and there's no boundaries, there's no border. There's just earth. Wow. And it just fills the screen. And
like
when
how
you
it
get up
says
there
astronaut.
and you see the earth, and it's so beautiful, and it just fills the screen.
Is it what you expected?
No.
Better.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you can describe it because, you know what I was saying? It was like quiet, but then also really alive. And you look at it and you're like, we're all in this together.
You mentioned this was prior to going up. You said that you needed to go to space to heal. I know you're only a few minutes removed from this incredible experience. Do you feel healed? Now you are officially an astronaut.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel super connected to love.
Goodness.
I will never be the same. I mean, when you get up
No,
there...
that's it.
and
That's it. There's another one. She said making space. But
Well, no, it's
how
just so
great
funny.
is it that they just get called astronauts?
It's
now?
funny to hear the richest guy in the world's wife go, "We're all in it together."
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people feel that.
Yeah, we're definitely not all
I
in
don't
it with
feel
you.
like we're all
Can we
in
come
it
to
together
your yacht?
with you.
Can we get on your jet?
How in it together are we?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It feels like you hand selected a couple of friends to go do this.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a lottery system like Willy Wonka, where just 7 random people should have been able to go in this.
I would do it just
That
to
would
change
be
my.
fun.
That would be good.
Just
Yeah.
7 random people.
Just pull out some guy who's not supposed to be here.
Just a cashier at HEB, someone from MS-13.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Get him in.
Someone
Someone from
MS-13.
Trendiagua and Lauren Sanchez and Gail King and, you know.
Oh, you see they released the footage, dash cam footage or police footage of the guy who they're saying was just a father.
The Maryland father.
Yeah, as he got pulled over with 8 undocumented people in
Yeah.
his truck. They were all supposedly staying at his house.
Yeah, I didn't see that,
Yeah.
but
The wife had a restraining order against him, a protection order.
I saw
in
that there was a
2021.
restraining order. I saw that he was hanging out with 2 guys that were in MS-13.
Yeah, they released the. Yeah, he's definitely sketchy.
They
But
have
it's
made a
not,
few
he's not this
mistakes.
Maryland father.
No.
The guy that scares me is the hairdresser.
The gay hairstylist?
Yeah, I wanna
Or there's
know what's
a guy
going on
with a
with that.
tattoo. And his
That's him. The hairdresser has a mom
autism.
and dad. Oh no.
Oh no, there was a guy with an autism awareness tattoo, and they thought it was like an MS-13 tattoo, but it doesn't look like an MS-13 tattoo. It's a literal.
The problem is everybody's a liar.
You don't
so
know.
the liberals are liars and the Republicans are liars.
Everyone's lying.
They're all lying. And if they did ship some
Ironically, the
hairdresser-
only people I trust are MS-13
and
because
podcasters
they'll tell you.
and podcasters.
Podcasters and MS-13.
That's all I trust.
I would love if you just had MS-13 on, just 3 guys with tattoos, because, by the way, there would be no outrage. That's what's hilarious.
Right.
If you had 3 MS-13 gang members, not one person would go, why did he have
Why did
them
he
on?
platform them?
Nobody would.
But if I have Ian Carroll on,
If you have anyone else on, it'll be a horrible thing. But if it was 3 guys, MS-13 with head-to-toe tattoos, who admitted to killing multiple people, and you said, now tell me about what it's like to grow up in San Pedro Sula or whatever, and it would be okay.
well,
that
the
would
reason
be
why
okay.
that's good is because I think it's important to learn about other cultures.
A
And everybody
1,000%. And they
does.
should have their chance to talk.
And what's not cool is talking about maybe Israel did something wrong. You should really not do that.
I think it's criminal of you to even discuss
I know.
anything.
Well,
It's not right. It's
Apparently,
not
I've
right.
been co-opted by what's called the woke right.
The woke right.
That's what I heard. There's a woke right now?
Yes, and they're
Fascinating.
they're co-opting.
I still haven't accepted the fact that I've left the left.
I did a CNN interview for an hour because I'm promoting my special, and then
my God. Did you really?
yeah, and they
Who'd
asked
you
me.
talk to?
This girl, Elle Reeves.
Was she cool?
Elle, she was cool. She does all the, when you see the Vice documentaries where she talks to the Nazis and the incels?
Oh, Jesus, she does
It was that chick, and
Oh,
they sent
whoa.
her in.
Oh, that's a good move
I
for
was
them.
like, this is hilarious. So I'm sitting there, and she sits down. She's like, are there any left-wing comedians? And I named 10 of them that are all in arenas. And she goes, oh, because their whole thing now is that podcasters are the most powerful people in the world. And she goes, do you think you're friends of the new establishment? I said, well, there's 22 intelligence agencies, an entire legacy media. There's lots of Ivy League schools. There's this, there's that. Do I think Theo Von's the new establishment? No. I don't think so. I think you ran a really unpopular candidate. I don't think Americans like child sex changes, and I don't think they want an open border. And I think if you'd, co-opted some of those issues, you might have won. They said to me at CNN, they're like, we're editing the interview. I said, put the hour out. I sat there for an hour, and we had a nice conversation. But, we talked for 1 hour, and I was like, put it out. I'm like, I understand if you can't put it out. And then she goes like this. She goes, I can't believe you'd show up. People have said that they can't come on here because Joe Rogan would get mad at them. I said, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Why would I care?
said, he doesn't care. He would never care. I said,
Oh, that's so silly.
it's the silliest thing ever.
They think we're at war.
I just said, put out the thing, put out the hour online. If you can only put out a few minutes on network, fine. But it's wrong to have someone come in and talk for an hour.
Right.
And then,
use 3 minutes.
And then use 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
So
fucked up.
how much did they use?
We don't know yet. They haven't put it out.
And did they say we can't put the whole hour out?
I texted this journalist, and she texted me. She goes, I'm pushing for like a long form release. I go, yeah, man, just put out the interview.
Also, do you guys want ratings or no?
Yeah, we had a conversation about all these things you guys talk about.
Yeah, you guys have a website.
Then what are we doing?
Don't you have a YouTube page? Does
Put
the
it
CNN have a
out.
YouTube page?
And
Put the
she's
fucking
like-
whole hour out.
I go, she goes, what do you think the Joe Rogan show, why is it so popular? I go, well, one of the reasons is he doesn't edit people. They're not edited. They come on, they say what they want to say, and there's no editing. So what's weird about those institutions is they will sit you down for an hour and then I guess cherry pick what they think their audience wants to see.
Well, they just want what they think is going to grab the most ratings and is not going to make them look stupid. So if you're mocking them openly, and
Well, she didn't know when she said it there. She goes, comedy's right wing. She goes, name left of center comedians. I named literally 8 of them, and I said they all are in arenas. I go, what are you talking about?
It's so dumb.
What are you talking about?
It's so dumb.
I was like, that's you're saying that comedy's what?
By the way, I used to be left of center according to the metrics of 2015.
I said there's a lot of Joe's positions if you look at them that are left of center positions, and there's a lot of my positions or anyone's positions. I said there's nobody that you can easily put in a box.
Yeah.
But they want you to be in that box.
Well, they're silly. And they also want me to be an enemy of CNN. I don't give a fuck if
You don't
anybody
care.
goes
Who
on CNN.
cares?
By the way, I hope CNN corrects course and does
Right.
real news.
Right.
And just concentrates on the news and all this
Yeah.
fucking... I don't want editorial comments from morons, right? So when you're force-feeding me Don Lemon's opinion on how the world should be,
Right.
and how everyone
Right.
should be shamed if they don't get vaccinated. Like,
Right.
You're force feeding me morons. Like, no matter, of course your ratings plummeted.
Yeah.
Of course, and you guys lied about
Yeah.
so many fucking things and
Yeah.
never corrected yourselves.
Well, they're an arm of the Democratic National Committee, and they're an arm of that party. I mean, they're
whether they are forced to be or whether they choose to be because they identify with being Democrat and they want to skew things completely towards the left. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
all of the old Bush era neoconservative people who pushed the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Patriot Act and Guantanamo Bay and all of this stuff all find homes usually on MSNBC or CNN advocating for war with
Yes.
Iran
Yes.
or
Always.
an escalation in Ukraine. They always, so it's kind of an establishment, doesn't seem to, they don't really care about party.
Right.
And,
They're doing better now, though. I mean, this when they
Yeah.
have Scott Jennings on,
he's,
that's,
he's
he's great.
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversations you need. Completely ridiculous people who are out of their fucking minds versus Scott Jennings. Like, those are great.
You need
because
to
it's
have
like,
some fun, yeah.
It makes these ridiculous woke anchors look retarded.
Yeah.
And They should.
There
they
are
in the world.
There are good principled arguments that against right-wing things.
Yes.
You just can't have people who are completely out of it make them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like after the election, one of my favorite ones was it CNBC or CNN? I forget what it was. This guy was talking about this whole right-wing podcast ecosystem that's incredibly well-funded and organized. And
Right.
what are you talking about? Like you
Right.
could literally go to the roots of how it all started. You could see every one of us doing our first podcast with a fucking webcam.
There's no funding. What are we talking about? What are we saying?
And even the
Funding.
idea that we're all organized together, or that like I would want to prevent people from going on CNN.
It's just silly.
I could
It's
not care less.
Because that's the way they operate. You always usually, like, a lot of times you end up accusing people of something you're doing.
Right.
So because you are familiar with that. So they're like, well, we have a top-down corporate oligarchy telling us what to do. Is that the way it works with you? Like, no, Joe Rogan doesn't email people at the beginning of the week and go, hey, guys, this is the
where
most
you can't go.
This is the most insane thing ever.
But not only that, like, I want them to do well. I really don't care. They
Right.
obviously don't want me to do well.
Right.
But I don't care. I
Right.
hope look, if they turned it around and CNN became great, I'd watch it all the time. It used to be great. It used to have parts unknown on it.
The new thing they're doing, this is a very interesting thing that's happening. If somebody says something that they don't like and they can't immediately dismiss it, they go, but the fans of that thing are bad people.
Right.
This is an interesting attack point. They go, but somebody with a massive audience, if they find a sliver of that audience to
Right.
be objectionable in any way, they then go, well, the fans of that type of questioning are anti-Semitic or racist
Right.
or something.
Well,
and they
that's-
don't deal with the actual facts or the actual line of argumentation.
Yeah, it's just a sneaky debate tactic.
Right.
When you're dealing with, I have 19 million YouTube subscribers. How can you nail that down to the fans?
Right.
You don't know. You're just
Right.
talking out of your ass.
Right.
This is a non-argument. It's a
Right.
stupid point. And by the way, when you're talking about actual comments, we've already established that I don't know what the number is, but there's a huge number of people that are commenting that aren't even people. They're
Right.
bots.
Right.
They're state-sponsored bots.
Yeah.
They could be from Ukraine. They could be from America. They could be from Russia. They could be from Israel.
And I want more of them.
Yeah.
So if they're a state-sponsored bots that can jack my ratings up,
They can.
If they want to come over to me,
Do you have anything nice to say about Israel?
any Ukraine, I'm waiting for the money. I texted Barry Weiss and go, here's the way this game works. I get a little bit of money first. Not I go on and defend whatever the hell you people want to do. I'm not going to get my beak wet?
If you and I go to Israel, will you slap on the yarmulke?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Will you kiss the wall? Will you kiss the wall?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, and my film is greenlit when?
Do you have to kiss the wall? Is
And
that the word?
no, I don't know anything. The wall is is that the Wailing Wall?
I don't know, but Mike Huckabee's over there like a good Christian.
Oh, well, he loves
'Cause
it
it's
over
Easter
there.
Sunday.
He
That's where
loves
you're
it over
supposed to
there.
be.
Because the fundamentalist Christians go hard
Yeah.
with the Israel thing. They're
Yeah,
like,
'cause
let's
they
go.
think Jesus is coming back to
No,
that spot.
yeah. What's very interesting is if Israel said to a fundamentalist Christian, if Netanyahu called Mike Huckabee and said, we're going to have to nuke Iran, he'd go, let's do it.
That's what Jesus
Let's
wants.
do it. That's what Jesus would want, a nuclear war. So that's where we've gotten. We've gotten to the
Jesus
point
wants us to use the nukes.
where we have fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Israelis and fundamentalist Muslims on the other side, and everybody's playing this weird game. And
Yeah, there he is. Boy, he looks old. Jesus.
this is just hilarious. If this is the freeze frame from the episode that
These
we
guys
released, is us watching this.
They stop dyeing their hair at some point in time and just say, oh, fuck it. You know, like Stallone did.
The best hat they have is the Schreimel. They wear it in Brooklyn. It's that big furry Russian hat.
Oh, I love that hat.
looks sick.
That is a sick hat.
It looks like something out of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's a hat. Like, I don't give a fuck what you think.
Doesn't
I'm a member
matter.
of the tribe, bitch. I got strings hanging from my belt. and I'm rocking
I got a hat.
a bear dick hat.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty sick hat.
Yeah, I like that hat.
I think people can't get past the fact that, like, I mean, it's just
look at that
sick.
hat. That has the shit. What's that made out of? Why? Let's answer the question. Why do Orthodox Jewish men? Where's Ari when you need him?
That's a great point.
Ari never had to wear one of those hats, though.
No, but he looked good.
Yeah, I got a ton of hats from different UFC fighters.
Yeah.
From like Dagestan and from Kazakhstan. I got a cool Kazakhstan hat from Shavkat Ram.
It's a sick hat.
That is pretty dope.
It's an objectively
Why do they
sick
wear it,
hat.
Jamie? There was an article that just said it before that. The fur one. If you go back up in upper left corner. Yeah. Jew in the City is the name of the website. God, I hope a Jewish person's running that website. Otherwise, they're going to get assassinated. The fur hat is known by the Yiddish name, how do you say that? Shtreimel? Shtreimel.
Yeah.
The Shtreimel was adopted by Eastern European Jewish communities in the 18th century and coincided with the rise of Hasidic Judaism. Technically, a Shtreimel is one particular style of hat. There are others. One that might be familiar on site is the Spodek. Oh, you fucking pop-up ad, cocksucker. Enter your email, which is taller and more cylindrical than a Shtreimel. A Spodek is the style generally favored by a Hasidic sects of Polish descent. To the casual observer, however, they're all Shtreimels. Shtreimel's made from a large piece of velvet surrounded by fur. Fur usually comes from the tips of the tails of sable, martens, or fox.
Nice.
Synthetic Shtreimels do exist. They're more common in Israel than elsewhere. Interesting. Shtreimel can cost thousands of dollars, so it's not uncommon for a Hasidic man to own a second, cheaper Shtreimel, so that his main Shtreimel will not be battered by the elements.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. It's a cool hat. Let everybody know you're part of the tribe.
It's a fun hat.
Maybe comedians need like a thing that we wear.
A hat?
Yeah, like a thing that
That's
lets us
very
know
good.
we don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I like that Kanye West Black Klan suit.
That's dope. How about his giant swastika in diamonds? Have you seen that?
What's funny is a jeweler made that.
Oh yeah,
And a Jewish jeweler.
Yeah.
An Israeli Jewish
They
guy
probably give him
made
a
that.
significant markup.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I've
I
got to
would.
give you a swastika tax.
I would. It's only fair.
Yeah, you need a tax.
I think
if
it's
you
only
want
fair.
If you want a Jewish man to make a swastika, you got to
People
got to
separate, and I think this is not, I think people got to separate like governments from people, intelligence agencies from people. I think that's the whole thing. I think people are losing the ability to do that in this case, right? Because when you criticize Israel, or you criticize something that may or may not have been done by a government or an intelligence agency, you're not criticizing people.
Right.
You're criticizing a group of people making decisions. I don't think America always does things that are in the best interest of the American people.
Right. Well, this is the problem with when everybody sort of picks sides during the COVID thing, whether or not we should trust the vaccine companies. Because, like, you did it because you're on the left and the people on the right were the ones who didn't want to take it. So instead of just looking at it objectively, the people on the left were like, everybody who doesn't agree is a science denier, and it got like really kooky because it got ideological. And as soon as it's ideological, you can fucking justify anything. This is how Jewish Americans are justifying, well, Hamas uses people as human shields. Like, they'll say things like that. Like, it's a way you can justify mass murder.
Yeah.
It's a way you can justify anything. As long as the tribe on your side, whatever your clan is,
right,
you can justify things. And so people stop thinking. They stop thinking, and they just think completely along ideological lines. It's frustrating as fuck.
It is. And passionately.
Yeah.
Very passionately.
Oh, they're right. You're
no
wrong.
one is ever questioning anything.
No. Why
no
would
one
they
ever
question science?
No one goes, wait a minute. Like, I think it's healthy to every now and then go, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there was just something that got released today that showed that COVID-19 definitively came from that lab.
1,000%.
100% proof it came from that lab.
I read it, a little bit of it on the way here.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. These fucking people, they just got roped into this.
And it was a completely
criminals.
Man-made
100%
disease.
100%. And they knew that from the moment it happened.
It leaked.
The moment it happened.
They
They
knew.
just lied. And Fauci is just out there walking around.
That's an interesting. It's an interesting case when someone like that in that position repeatedly lied to people about the origins of that.
Yeah. And is allowed to just be free.
And faces zero consequences.
Meanwhile, they were trying to put Trump in jail because he
inflated the price of a condo.
Yeah. Would you see what
he
they
got an appraisal that was higher, and then they lied.
Well, their
They
appraisal
lied.
was horseshit. But
They
did you
lied
see
about
that
it.
Letitia James is now
Yeah.
in trouble for the exact same shit?
Really?
You didn't see that?
That makes sense.
They're investigating her because she allegedly, according to Megyn Kelly, who I trust implicitly, allegedly went and got mortgages with her father, listing them as husband and wife.
Yeah.
On buildings,
right,
multiple times, and then also lied about the amount of bedrooms that were in a place,
right?
Because if it's 4 bedrooms, you get one tax rate. If it's 5, it's more. So she lied. It was a 5, and she said it was a 4.
Right. Well, this is what they all do. So I think really the funny thing about all the cases that they brought against Trump, a lot of those cases were rooted in just politicized version of something that's pretty standard that a lot of people have done.
Yeah, they always overvalue their properties.
Always overvalue properties. And people get away with it, and it's not
it's not a crime. But here's the thing about the Trump thing is that all the people had been paid. So not only was it profitable for the banks, he paid everything on time. The loan, there's no criminal. Like, there's no crime. No one got victimized. Nothing happened.
Right.
They profited.
Right.
And then this crazy lady with a terrible past thought that she was going to be able to pull this off because she was on the team that she thought was going to win. Like, you talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, they got a bunch of morons to sign in on these things.
It feels like we're in some kind of Cold War between two factions in American politics that are using courts and lawyers to go at each other.
Yeah.
It's not hot war. People aren't fighting in the streets, but it does seem to be these parties seem to no longer view each other as different sides of the same coin. There seems to be, especially when it comes to Trump, it seems to be like they cannot, see him as anything other than an existential threat that has to be vanquished at any cost.
Right. And the problem with that is when you deny good things and only highlight bad things that everybody knows it. Well, now you're playing a game, and your game is I never tell the truth. I tell you parts of the truth that I like.
Yeah. And you got to win that game.
Yeah.
If you're playing that game, you got to win.
Yeah.
If you do all these things, they have to work.
And if Trump gets in office,
then
even after you did all these things,
it's a problem.
You're fucked.
Then it's a problem. You know, it's like with JFK, they got him.
Yeah.
Obviously not good, but they got him, and then that slammed the door shut, and then all their people came in and kept a cover-up going on.
I wish I really understood all this stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
Because there's an argument that we haven't had a real president since JFK got shot.
That's probably a good argument.
Yeah.
And there's maybe arguments that we actually didn't have real presidents prior to JFK.
Right.
So,
well, what do you think is happening now then? Do you think that...
I think you have these guys, right? So these guys that go into the CIA, they learn all about these underground groups. They have all of these different relationships all over the world, right? Weapons, weapons, drug running, weapons, all of these different, terrorist groups, crime syndicates, right? Their job is to know information about every government, all of the, separatist groups that could potentially take over and become the next government. They have all of these connections. And then they either leave the CIA, they retire, or supposedly it never occurs to any of them to make a buck. That's the real question, right? It never occurs to any of these people that there might be a great way to make a buck working with some of these people outside of Congress, the White House, all of that. That's, as it's been explained to me by pretty smart people, that's what you have. You have a rogue element of people in those agencies that have massive amounts of money.
Right.
And they're very well connected. And they're running weapons. And the president has no idea what's going on.
Right.
And Congress has no idea what's going on. They're not briefing a teacher from Georgia who got elected because he promised he was going to build a fucking shopping mall in a suburb of Atlanta about what they're doing in Syria.
Right.
They're not briefing these people.
Exactly.
There's nothing democratic about what's happening. And so then you think to yourself, you're like, well, how do we make sure everyone keeps their mouth shut? How do we make sure everyone keeps their mouth shut?
Cha-ching.
Then we go, not only money, but that's when we bring in Ghislaine Maxwell. That's when we bring in Jeffrey Epstein, right? That's when we bring in people who go, let's all have fun. We've got a great weekend getaway planned. and then we can all be on camera doing something that would get us thrown in jail, have people rightly disgusted and want to kill us, and the worst things ever are now on camera somewhere. Those tapes are somewhere. Now everybody is completely incapable of ever coming out and saying what's going on.
Yeah.
And, and then those people are running a parallel government. It's a parallel command structure. And that's a huge problem.
And it was essentially completely in control for 4 years.
Probably for more than 4.
But for the last 4, for sure.
1,000%.
That's the best example we've ever had of that.
1,000%.
That guy's never really running things.
1,000%.
There's no way they let him.
And it's probably still in control to a certain degree now, because it's very hard to, when you have something like that happening, it is very difficult to completely shut it down.
Well, it's
very hard.
Well, here's a perfect example that we know it's definitely running things, because Trump is still trying to figure out why he got shot. Like, he was like, I want more information.
Yeah.
Like there's no information
There's
coming
not
to
going to be.
him
There's
about.
not going to be information.
Yeah, well,
There's not going to be information.
That's a crazy story. That
Well, also
story,
there's-
you should try to connect. Like, if it's not America that did it, if it's not us, it's not intelligence agencies that did it, then it means a foreign government that hijacked this kid's brain and got him to climb on top of that roof. Like, somebody tried to get someone to assassinate a guy who's running for president, and no one seems to be interested in finding who that person or that group who influenced this kid is. It's
So
like-
many of these ex-intelligence chiefs pop up all over the world. They pop up in Dubai. They pop up on MSNBC.
like to travel.
They love traveling. They're having meetings with people. They're all over the place.
They
and
love
they're,
people.
And they love people. They love cultures.
Cultures
They love
are
meeting
nice.
different cultures.
Yeah, the food's great.
And supposedly, I heard from someone who's, again, smart and I consider trustworthy, that there's actually large sectors of the global economy that are moved more in this direction than you'd think. Like, there are tentacles into very large investment banks and private equity companies that a lot of these guys have. Let's
sure.
put it that way. Obviously, it's not a shocking
sure.
thing.
Why would the government let a private equity company operate with impunity?
Right. So you have
Especially if they're controlling regulations and they're
yeah.
like, let's work together.
Right. There doesn't seem to be a good answer to any of this. That becomes the real issue.
You ever get invited to these like fucking Illuminati conferences or any of these crazy things?
No, they wanted me to do stand-up at one conference, and it wasn't like an Illuminati kind of thing. It was like I don't know, it was like some type of like low-grade Illuminati.
Yeah, that's
Like
how
kind
they
of
start
faux
you.
Illuminati.
It's like the minor leagues,
Yeah.
and then eventually you go to some
Yeah.
weird ranch in the mountains of Wyoming.
Well, that sounds nice.
Maybe.
It actually does sound nice.
Maybe.
No, I think that, like, it does seem weird that a lot of, once you get to a certain level, people take an interest in you that never were interested. Mm-hmm. You know?
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
People are interested.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. It is strange that people seem to care about you or what you're saying, or people going, I think your read on that is wrong. And you're like, why do you care what it is? I'm a fucking guy talking into a microphone once or twice a week.
Yeah, but they don't like that. They don't like
Yeah.
people having influence that haven't been sanctioned.
They don't like that.
Yeah, they want all influence to be top down, all
Yeah.
influence to be a part of a giant corporation.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They don't want influence to be just regular people. Regular people are fringe. They're far this or far that. They're problematic. They spew misinformation and There's no one who spews more misinformation than CNN.
They
Over the
spew a
years,
lot.
how many times you guys, just what you guys did over
Yeah.
COVID, if you were a podcaster, you'd be shut down.
Right.
Like, if the podcasters were the one telling everybody to get vaxxed, you get it, you won't spread it, you won't this, you won't that, there's no side effects. If podcasters are saying that, but the establishment news was saying, hold on, this is an experimental vaccine. We should not be asking women who are pregnant to take this. We should be not asking kids who are in no danger to take this. We do not know the long-term consequences. If podcasters were saying that, You know,
It would be
podcasters
for
were
sure.
on the government side instead of CNN. If CNN was the wise ones that told everybody to be cautious,
Right.
they would want us prosecuted.
Yeah.
They would be going after us for all the side effects that people are experiencing.
Yeah.
You have blood on your hands. You're responsible for strokes and heart attacks and myocarditis and all sorts of autoimmune
Well, you
issues.
also have to
and
think about how much
neurological-
easier it is for, let's say, an intelligence community to manipulate them than it is to come in here. Like an intelligence community is not going to go, all right,
all
let's
they
find.
have to do is bring me to the UFOs.
No,
That's
no.
all I
for
ask,
sure. You
and I'm on the
keep
agenda.
telling them that. Yes.
That's all you have to do. What do
That's-
you want me to do?
it's
You wanna-
very easy.
We're going to go to war with Kosovo? I don't even
a good
know where
idea.
Kosovo is on a map, but if you tell me where the UFOs are, I'll have a guy in here that explains why it's super important. We
But it
bomb
is
the
funny.
fuck.
It's like what they'd have to do is pick somebody, have them become a comedian, start a podcast, get an audit. Like it is difficult, right?
Yes.
Whereas if you work at a media company, it's very easy to just some new guys there.
Yeah.
Who's this?
Right.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Mike.
Somebody just shows up. Hey, Suzanne, run everything by Suzanne.
Hey, how does this
Yeah.
guy, Bob Woodward, how
Right.
does he get the most
Yeah.
important? This is his first case.
Lucky guy.
He gets Watergate.
Lucky guy.
Wait a minute. What did he do for Navy intelligence?
Right.
What-
Lucky guy. That
Okay.
Watergate thing's so funny.
But I've been here for
because-
30 years, Mike.
Yeah, I haven't gotten
Shut
anything.
the fuck up.
Fuck
Bob's
you.
taking this case.
Bob's taking down Nixon, who's
Yeah.
keeps asking questions about what happened to Kennedy.
Did you see when Bill Murray was here?
I did, yeah.
Did you see the thing that he said about Wired, the book?
Yeah. Wait, which one?
Wired is the book on John Belushi. He said, I read the first 5 pages and I was like, oh my God, they set up Nixon.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They framed Nixon.
That's so funny.
This is what he said.
Yeah.
He's like, if this is what they say, this is what this same guy said about John Belushi, which is
Right.
100% not true.
Right.
Do you know John Belushi was a lightweight?
Right.
He would drink a couple of beers and he'd be fucked up.
Right.
Like, he didn't have tolerance. He wasn't this maniacal coke
No.
sniffing. It was all lies.
They don't care at all about getting any accurate information.
That time that he died
Yeah.
was probably the first time he ever did a speedball, according to Bill Murray.
Wow.
Yeah. And Bill
Wow.
Murray was one of his best friends.
Bill Murray knew.
Bill Murray's like, I've known this guy most of my life.
Right.
And then he goes, they framed Nixon.
Right. It's
And,
very-
then I told him the whole story that Tucker
course.
Carlson had told me.
Yeah.
Which I was like, what? That it was all FBI agents
Yeah.
and the whole thing was a complete sting.
It was a sloppy burglary where they wanted to get caught. They traced it back to Nixon because Nixon was doing things they hated.
Well,
And,
this is
you
the
know.
thing that got Nixon on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but what they said to Nixon is they told if Nixon was not guilty of the crime, but they told Nixon about the crime and then he helped them cover it up. That's
Right.
how they got him.
Right.
But I mean, what is he going to do?
Of course.
If he thinks this is on the legit
course.
and you come to him with the crime, like, oh, Jesus Christ. Well, don't
Right.
fucking tell anybody,
Yeah.
Tim. Jesus Christ, Tim.
Yeah.
What did you do? You bugged Cap City?
yeah.
Come
yeah.
on. Fuck.
They had to get rid of. They had to get.
Yeah.
They had to get rid of him.
Well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna throw our phones in the river.
Yeah. Right. Here's what happens now.
Okay. How do we get out of this?
Yeah.
Where'd you put the bugs? Can
Yeah.
we break in and take the bugs back?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
They'd be so flattered if we bug Cap City.
I heard they
That's
hate
awesome.
us. Somebody told me last night that they hate us. I'm like, how do you hate me? I love you. I used to love the old Cap City. If you got Cap City, if
Right.
you got headliners and you need them, I'll promote it. I'll promote it on Twitter. Like,
Yeah.
And same thing with Moon Tower. I heard
Yeah.
they're mad at me too because I wouldn't have them at the club. I'm happy to help you.
Yeah.
I would happy to help you. I just
Of
don't
course.
want you to book my club.
Of
That's
course.
all it is.
Of
My
course.
club is sold out every night.
Yeah.
And it's guys like you and Shane and
Yeah.
Ari and all these. I don't want anybody else booking it. It doesn't mean that I don't support your cause.
Of course.
I just don't want you coming into my establishment. That's all it is. I want everybody to do well. There's 5 comedy clubs on my street.
What you've done, I think,
happy.
ultimately is good for the town. You bring people into the town.
The problem is when
Yeah.
people used to be in control of comedy in the town, and then all of a sudden they're not, and they used to be like the person that people would go to, and now they're insignificant.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that. The idea of that they're losing control. I think that seems to be the angriest I've seen people online since the election that have railed against podcasts and they've railed against. They seem to be angry that they no longer have a monopoly on what
Exactly.
people can hear.
Exactly. And they still continue to lie and misrepresent people that do podcasts or
Right.
people that are have a different opinion say. And that's where it gets really stupid. You know, like they keep saying that, you know, when I had that Daryl Cooper guy on, that I'm bringing on a Nazi apologist and a Holocaust denier. Like that is, neither of those things are true.
Yeah.
It's not true. And the guy doesn't just talk about that. By the way, his stuff about Jim Jones is fucking sensational. You know, Jim Jones was like a civil rights leader.
Yeah.
Jim Jones had an interracial child.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, Jim Jones was like, he had an adopted black child that he would take to school, and everybody would be fucking furious at him in the town.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was a legitimate Christian, like a real, I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christian.
One of the big things in
Until he
America,
went kooky on
yeah,
meth.
of course,
The meth got him.
yes. Listen, there are a lot of people questioning World War II for not good reasons. Of course,
Right.
it's like people that bring up the age of consent, and you go,
Right.
"Wait a minute,
Yeah,
you know?
hey,
What's going on?"
what are you doing?
There are people. There are people I think that do launder not great reasons for questioning World War II through whatever. However,
no doubt.
no doubt, there is a very interesting. The teeth really come out. The gnashing of teeth come out in this country when you question at all the American war machine.
Yes.
And the pageantry of war and the iconography of the state and of war and of how important it is and how just it always is and how we're always on the right side of it and we're always doing the right thing. And in World War II, we 100% were, but there are a lot of other times when we've made grave errors with our military.
Yes.
And I feel like it's not good enough for, you can't just point to World War II, which is, again, we were correct.
Yes.
But I think there is this idea that if you do, it's not an accident there's a million movies made about World War II. It's not an accident that there is a lot of pageantry surrounding World War II.
Well, also that the World
Yeah.
War II movies have heroes.
Of
whereas
course.
the Vietnam movies are apocalypse.
That's
now.
right.
Everything's complicated and it's all chaos.
So I think that inspires the idea that a military solution is always correct and that the use of force is always the right way to do it. And that coincidentally makes people lots and lots of money and their children never end up fighting those wars. That seems to be a lot of it. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people with bad motivations that are genuinely anti-Semitic or that genuinely have fascist inclinations. There absolutely are. But I think there needs to be space to criticize the mythologizing of war in general and the justification for endless wars all the time.
Yes.
Like Iran. I hope Trump does not go into Iran.
Yeah.
That seems like a very bad idea.
It also seems like a very bad idea for Iran to get nuclear weapons. That seems bad too.
Yes, but I think there's ways to prevent that without a regime change war. This is what we have to do. This is what Tulsi Gabbard, I think, was very attractive about a lot of what she said during her confirmation hearing. She goes, I understand that there are terrorists out there that are dangerous, but we got to find a way to deal with them without committing troops to stand there in an Islamic country. We've done this.
Yeah.
We saw this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we have to stop thinking that it's going to be better this time. If we decapitate the head of a foreign government and we have American soldiers in an Islamic country trying to set up a provisional government, the nightmare of that during Iraq, Paul Bremer, this weird British-looking guy that they sent to stand on that rubble with his boots and, you know, the mission accomplished on the aircraft carrier. Like, it brings back, like, you know, to me, it's like I get flashbacks from it.
Do you remember the guy who was the Iraqi public relations guy who was saying that they're winning the war?
Was it Ahmed Chalabi? Well, no, that was the guy that fed us all the bullshit to get us in.
No.
Yeah.
It was the guy that people openly mocked. I believe he had glasses, and he was the guy that was always saying that Iraq is kicking ass.
Oh, interesting. No.
Yeah, Baghdad something or another they called him.
And he was saying that we were doing good?
No.
that we were getting-
No. He was saying that Iraq is kicking our ass.
Yeah. Well,
Do you remember that?
hilarious. No, I don't remember that.
Baghdad something or another they called him.
By
It
the
was
way,
like-
does anyone know what's going on in Iraq right now?
Mostly
couldn't-
flea markets.
If there was a gun to my head, I could not tell you what the state of Iraq was. I know the Taliban are in Afghanistan. What's going on in Iraq?
Listen. You hear that? Ready? That's a gay guy that threw off a roof.
Right. So that's why we spent. That's a 20-year, commitment, or was a
Here's
very
another
long
one.
time. Right. So that's like, I feel like that's the thing, that when you ever try to have a nuanced understanding of what we can and can't do, I don't think it's a great idea that Iran gets nuclear weapons. It seems like there are ways to prevent that.
We got to make ISIS in charge.
Full-scale invasion. But don't we need these? Like, I think, like, I always look at these groups like the Houthis and stuff. We need these people.
100%.
We need them. And the Houthis are a fun one because they're like on the ocean and they're like pirates. This is new. They figured out that like land-based stuff's not as interesting. They're disrupting trade. You know how much of our trade goes through? It's 3%.
Hey, listen,
3% trade.
Don't minimize that. Just like I don't want you minimizing the
these
female
women.
astronauts.
But we need these Houthis. It feels like we need these groups. We had ISIS. We had then ISIL. Now, we had the people in Syria. I forget their names, something. But we need these little groups. And this is what we do. We just choose, because all of these groups are not even, they're just people hanging out, and then we give them weapons and get them going. They're just guys in a bar. A lot of these groups are guys in a bar
Some of them
in
don't
Syria.
even have a bar. They have a hole in the ground.
They're sitting a hole in the ground, and we show up and we start arming them and giving them stuff. And it's like that Bill Hicks joke where it's like, pick up the gun, from special. It's like, are the Houthis an existential threat to the United States? That feels crazy.
The craziest thing was
just feels insane.
Trump showing the video of them getting bombed.
Oh, yeah.
It's so wild.
We could kill all. This is the problem. We could get rid of all of these threats in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but we don't seem to want to.
It's not good for business.
Yeah, no, we got to keep.
It's like you can't come to a market every week. You'll burn it out.
No, the Houthis are good.
If you're doing stand up, you got to go once a year.
You got to go once a year, once every 18 months. And I like the Houthis because they feel it's like a new, but they're not sticking. It's not. No one's believing it. So now they're back to Hezbollah. Oh. Hezbollah wears the fatigues. Ooh. If you get up Hezbollah, they're scary looking. The Houthis are not that scary. The Houthis look like a bunch of dudes in like a bazaar, like you said, like in a flea market. Right. That they're on a boat, they're holding up guns, no one cares. Hezbollah looks genuinely like, okay, let's not fuck with these people.
It's like Shane's bit about the Iraqis or the Afghanis.
Yeah.
Going through the workouts. And like would think they're like an elite army.
Oh, God,
they couldn't do jumping jacks.
They can't do anything. But that's the whole thing. It's like, it's this weird global chessboard of like, as someone said to me once, that there's like a dial, you turn it up, be like, more war, less war.
Yeah.
More war, less war.
I'm going to
see some more conflict.
If smelling salts are good for allergies. Have you gotten any of the allergies out here?
No, I don't get it.
My first year of legitimately getting them.
Cedar fever. I think you got to do cocaine.
They make allergy medicine too.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, maybe Zyrtec or something.
That's no fun.
What is it? The cedar?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's people say cedar.
But my nose has
fever.
been running. And
did you hear the story at all?
Mark Hopper actually might have helped the military capture Saddam Hussein. What?
So they were on a USO tour in 2003, and they got asked to come in and do like a private show, and he sat down. It's like, is it here?
Said, "Sir, I have a plan to catch Saddam Hussein," the musician recalled telling a Navy admiral on board the aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. According to Hoppus, Hussein had been sending video messages to his followers from an unknown location at the time. The musician felt that the military could use drones to their advantage and uncover his location by pulling data from the video messages. Sir, what about having drones fly all over the region in carpeting patterns, broadcasting time codes above the level of human hearing, but at the level that a video recording would catch it? Hope had suggested to the admiral. Then the next time he releases one of his videos, you could listen to it, pull the ultrasonic data, and triangulate the drones you have flying all over. Holy shit.
This is the guy from Blink 182?
Yeah, I think his dad was in the military.
Someone was in something.
He knew, yeah.
Okay, this brings me back to that fucking Strange Times in Laurel Canyon shit.
Yeah.
4 months later, Saddam was located and captured in Iraq, so you're welcome, everyone.
What a great book. Not only the Tom O'Neill book, but then this Dave McGowan book, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. I lived up there when I was living in L.A. I lived up there, and I'm telling you, that is the creepiest vibe of any area that I've ever been to in my life.
It's a weird vibe.
They have that fucking military installation, that Lookout Mountain.
Jared Leto owns that. He lives there now.
Doesn't he have a whole cult?
Shh.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
I'm sure he is. I'm not saying it's bad to have a cult.
They tried to investigate his cult.
Sure.
And it turns out it's not really. It's just a bunch of people having fun.
Yeah,
And
there's
there's
nothing
no
wrong with that.
requirements. There's no one asks you to fuck them. There's nothing
No,
happens.
it's a voluntary fuck cult.
It's not even voluntary fuck cult. It's just they get together and dance or something. I don't know what they do.
I
What
lived
do
there
they
for
do?
3 years. I didn't get one text. I had not one. I used to drive by and point at it and go, look, it's the thing.
What do they do? What does Jared Leto's?
It's like a summer camp. They call it like Echelon.
Yeah.
It's a
Like
summer
for fans
camp.
to go watch the band play close up. Kind
Oh,
of thing.
what the fuck's the problem with that, Tim? How about Tim Dillon Fest?
I have
How
no
about
problem with that.
It's basically Skank Fest.
Just a bunch of people eating shellfish in Long Island being racist. Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with that at all.
What a fun time though for us.
Yeah.
Because everything's just I mean, there's just so much stuff to talk about. Everything's nuts.
Do you
Nothing
think,
makes sense.
you know, I was on the All In podcast the other day and they were talking about these chips, these NVIDIA chips, and how what's interesting is people are setting up, because we have these export controls that don't allow us to send certain chips to China because they're able to like manipulate them
Right.
and then become the world's largest semiconductor producer. But now all these fun fake companies are starting in like Bhutan or Cambodia, and they're buying the chips, or Singapore, and then they all get back to China.
Well, one of the guys who worked at whatever the preeminent AI system in China was saying, one of the whistleblowers was saying that they have 50,000 of these fucking banned chips.
That's so wild.
Whoopsies.
And so they were talking about, like, is it better to send them the chips, or is it better to, if you don't send them the chips, then it spurs their innovation and they make the chips?
Well, either way, they're going to get the chips.
Yeah, they're getting the chips.
They're both innovating and stealing at the same time.
Can there be anything done to stop their rise?
Nah, not at this point.
Doesn't feel like it, right?
They're so much more technologically advanced in so many different areas now.
Yeah.
Like the drones that they have are so superior to the commercial drones that we have, because drones over here, you have to have a pilot's license to drive the really spicy ones.
Do you think
So
some of
they're all
those drones
regulated.
over New Jersey were theirs?
Could be. I think they were ours. I honestly do. Otherwise, I think they would have shot them down if they could. I don't know if they could. And maybe they wouldn't, because then it would alarm people. Because then it would, you would show that is a legitimate threat.
We're fighting for like satellite supremacy in the sky too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy. The internet, the Starlink. I mean, essentially, Elon's launching Starlinks all over the fucking world.
Do you worry at all about the tech people being Democrats up until 5 minutes ago?
Yeah,
And
you
then,
should, but
you know?
I think a lot of those people have shifted sides. And they've shifted sides because they understand that, well, I had Mark Andreessen in here, and Mark
Yeah.
Andreessen was explaining, he said the most terrifying meetings we ever had was when we were part of an AI startup, and the government came in and said, we're not going to let you do this.
Right.
Not only are we not going to let you do this, we're not going to let anybody do this. We're going to have a small amount of these things. We're going to completely control them.
Yeah.
He was like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are openly saying this, that you're going to inhibit innovation at the highest level of technology, some shit that you probably don't even understand, but you want to have absolute control over
I think
it.
the worry is that people don't trust the government, nor should they, but I don't know if they trust these tech guys either.
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. Look
I
what's
don't-
going
yeah.
on with OpenAI.
That's the whole
You
thing.
know?
I think that people are wary of the tech people because these were the same people that were censoring and kicking people off the internet
Yes.
when the people in the White House were blue.
Right.
And now that the people in the White House are red, it's swung back the other way.
Exactly.
So I think people are a little wary of that.
Yeah,
They don't know
well-
where that goes.
It's just power. It's just, I mean, like Bernie Sanders is right in
Right.
that you should be scared of oligarchs, and oligarchs shouldn't be running our government. He's right in that regard.
Right.
And when people get into positions of just unchecked power, so let's say if someone had control of some tech company, let's say it's an AI company, and that AI company literally creates the unstoppable AI that helps empower the entire country. And this one guy's in control of it, and he's worth $3 trillion now.
Right.
And he decides to lobby and change a bunch of laws and influence politicians, and his company starts donating to certain politicians. You could change the fabric of society with enough money and enough power and enough influence.
Yeah.
Especially if you could completely control what the narrative is.
Right.
In terms of like when people Google things, when they search things, when they talk about things, you can completely control what they're allowed to talk about and how that narrative gets countered, instantly
Yeah.
with facts and bullshit, and you can just
Well, it's being done everywhere, right? So it's being done at the highest levels, and I think people are uncomfortable with just losing, even though a lot of them realize that we didn't have a ton of control. They feel like, I think when you head into the world of tech where people just don't even know
right.
where this goes, where does it go? Does it go to transhumanism? Does it go to like AI replacing everybody? And then at what point, what do you do with those people that AI replaced? Do you give them all cryptocurrency that's linked to their biological whatever? I've heard all these ideas, right? Like, how do you deal with driverless cars where if the entire road is automated? How do you deal with that? I think that fills people with an anxiety where they go, what is the plan? And then a lot of these tech guys are like, well, we got to get off the planet. And I think people start going like, wait a minute, you know, like
That's Weinstein. Eric Weinstein.
well, it's a
thinks
lot
we
of
gotta get off the
people.
planet.
There's a lot of people.
I'm like,
saying
I'm staying.
that.
I don't know what you're saying.
There's a lot of people.
There's no air on Mars. Like, let's not go there.
Yeah, well, for sure. For sure. Do you think Trump and Musk will have a falling out eventually?
I don't know. It's a good question. The media keeps trying to push that they are.
It feels like they're just big personalities and that there's an inevitability when you have two guys that are incredibly, you know,
Perhaps.
alpha.
But Elon is very smart. And you see he's always very deferential. Like, and he's always very respectful. Mr. President. It's always that.
Well, of course.
Call
I
him
mean,
sir. That's how I treat him. I always call him sir. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, I get it. You're fired. I get it. But he's
Right.
also the
The
president of the
for
United
sure.
States. I call him sir. But I call everybody sir.
Yeah.
I call everybody sir.
Yeah.
It's like the byproduct of me living in Texas now.
Right.
too.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to.
You don't get pulled over anymore here.
And if I do, it's not that big of a deal.
If you get pulled over
I'm a good
here,
boy.
a cop gives you money. They go, Mr. Rogan, here's a check. I mean, there's no way. There's no law that you cannot break here. I'm guaranteeing you.
I don't think that's correct.
I think you could do a lot. I think they would cover up a murder.
That's sweet.
If you murdered 3 people, I
3?
think the Austin PD would go, whatever, man. He's doing a
had
lot.
it
They
coming.
bring that mayor, that guy, and he'd go, what? They go, yeah, the suspect's Joe Rogan. He was standing over the bodies. They'd go, are you out of your fucking mind? Drive him home right now. Drive that man home.
If I was in waist deep in
Yeah.
Rainy Street,
Oh, yeah.
drowning a party goer,
They don't care.
bro, they still don't want to admit that there's a serial killer.
You're the tourism board. Yeah, no, there's something's up.
There's a serial killer.
Something's going on.
I believe there's a serial killer.
And what are they doing? They're luring people to that bridge and then
Yeah, it's not hard. People like to go to the
Right.
bridge. You just got to look out for the
so
bushes.
weird. I guess it's such a high to kill someone. It's to me, I'm like, what do you get out of it? But I guess the people that are doing it like it.
They're broken. There's
Interesting.
broken people. And
Yeah.
then some broken people do meth, and some broken people drown guys who like to party.
Do you ever talk to I'm sure you have. This is a stupid question, but like the high level law enforcement guys that have just met these monsters and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And do they believe that it's like? Is there any part of them that believes someone's just born?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's generally you have psychotic parents. And so whether it's nature or nurture is hard to separate because you're probably abused. And generally at an early age they show like a willingness to torture like house pets and stuff
Animals.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll maybe start off with a frog they catch and stick a firecracker in its mouth and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then they eventually work their way up to humans.
Now it seems so much harder to do it because of these phones, surveillance.
It is, but it's
You can still do it.
not in Austin. You can get away with drowning folks.
You can drown people. Why don't you think they'll admit it? They don't want people getting spooked.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, one of the
We gotta
biggest things
think
ever in
maybe I'm
Austin
wrong.
were those
Maybe people
crazy
just keep-
yogurt shop murders. HBO just came out with a documentary about
When was
them.
that?
It was many years ago. This crazy yogurt shop murder thing. HBO just did a doc. Happened in Austin. It was like a famous case, and it's completely unsolved. Except they put some people in jail for it, but then later let one of them out. Like it was just one of those things where nobody was sure about what happened.
So they were murdering people that went to the yogurt place?
It was 1991, and it just South by Southwest. They just did a huge.
Oh, it was one homicide. A quadruple homicide which took place at I Can't Believe It's Yogurt Shop in Austin.
That could have been me in 1991.
Wow.
It's
34 years ago.
34 years ago. It's an underbelly.
14 girls were murdered in Austin. Wow.
14, yeah.
Wow.
And
they
it's
don't
puzzled.
know who did it?
They don't know. It's an unsolved murder.
I'd check the boyfriends.
And there's many different theories about it.
Wow. That's crazy. 4 men were arrested and charged with capital murder in 99, but 2 of their cases were overturned. The other 2 never went to trial. Wow. Interesting.
So there are these things that happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what they say, that if you just randomly shoot someone and kill them,
Yeah.
like if you're a real, like rando, like, did you ever see that movie, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
No.
It was about a guy named Henry Lee Lucas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Henry Lee Lucas they attributed like 62 murders to him. The problem is, I think one of the things cops do is they go, did you kill this guy? Yeah, I killed him too. Where'd you bury him? Where was he buried? Oh, that's where I buried him.
Oh, right.
That kind of thing. Now you got a case solved. That was
Right.
that was the accusation about Henry, because he was definitely a murderer and a grifter and a drifter, and he was traveling around the country stealing things. But then they made a movie about him, and in the movie he's way more sinister and calculated, but he would just randomly kill people.
So
in the
they'll
movie.
take credit for things they didn't do.
Exactly.
To just beef up the body count.
Exactly, because that's what they
Self-aggrandizing,
want.
yeah.
They want attention. They're already in jail.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you have shitty DAs and shitty prosecutors and shitty cops, they'll do stuff like that.
Do you think that there are people that are, national parks seem to be like a hotbed of people disappearing? And do you think
Appalachian Trail people? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's people getting you, or is that a lot of it like I got lost, I got eaten?
You get lost.
Yeah.
You get eaten. There's a guy who has this whole series, 911 missing or 411 missing people in national parks. Listen, man, you're just meat out there, and you get eaten. And by the way, you don't find dead anything out there. You don't find dead mountain lions. Guess what? They die all the time. I've never seen a dead mountain lion when I was hunting.
Because they get eaten.
They get eaten.
Right.
Everything gets eaten. You get, not only do you get eaten, your bones get eaten. Everything gets
Right.
eaten.
So it's not uncommon to disappear and there's no trace.
No trace.
Yeah.
Yeah, super common. So if you're in a high traffic area, like I've found elk bones where a hunter killed the elk and then, took all the meat off the bones and then left the bones there. That's what you do when you pack out meat.
Yeah.
And I've found those animals. Wow. I actually even found one animal that I shot a long time ago. I shot like 4 years ago.
And you found it?
Yeah, we were in the same location. It was the same bones. There wasn't all the bones there left.
Right.
Some of them have been dragged away. Some of them have probably been eaten by rodents. They eat the bones, and
Yeah.
slowly but surely. And if you're a human, you're made out of nothing. You're so easy to eat.
Right.
Like our bones are less dense. Our meat is soft and chewy.
Yeah.
Like we get devoured. A bear would eat your whole body. There would be almost nothing left, and rodents would eat what's left.
Yeah.
and
You got to be
vultures.
careful in
Yeah.
those places.
You can't be careful.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a GPS navigation system
Right.
that has a lot of batteries, if you don't have a compass and know how to use it, if you don't have a map, it's so easy to get lost in the woods.
Right.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
They're all around you, and you can go in one direction and circle around. You don't even realize you're circling.
Right.
And then 3 days later, you're back to where you started. You're like, fucking no.
Yeah,
You've
it's
been eating
terrible.
tree bark for 3 days,
It's
and you're
insane.
thinking, any step, I'm going to see the highway.
What
No.
a horrible thing.
People die like that all
the time.
All the time.
Just go to a hotel.
It's very difficult to
Just go to a
navigate yourself.
resort.
If you don't know the woods, you're not used to being in the woods, and you're not used to having landmarks that
Yeah.
you follow, and know how to use a compass, know how to use a GPS.
Some people are good at it, and even they get eaten.
Yeah, they get eaten too. Well, you break your ankle.
Right.
How about you break your ankle out there, and you can't hike out? It's not possible.
Right.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You fucking die. That's what you do.
Got to be very careful.
And then you hear something at night. You're sleeping under a tree, and you hear something
Right.
at night.
Right. Right.
You got a bear sniffing you.
It's
And you
crazy.
can't run away, and you don't
Yeah.
have a weapon.
You
And
can't do anything.
It just eats you alive.
And those woods are so dense in the Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. I mean, and everywhere, but
Especially the Pacific Northwest.
especially there, it's like crazy.
Yeah, you don't find nothing out there. But that's why the Bigfoot rumor persists up there, is because the woods are like a box of Q-tips.
Right.
You know, like you can't see shit out there.
You don't know what
you
the
see
hell's
like
going
a
on.
little shadow moving in between trees, and you've decided it's a Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just like
A bear.
It could be right. It's a
Yeah,
bear.
it's most likely a bear. Especially bears walking on two legs.
Northern California is weird like that too. I mean, that's part of the Pacific Northwest, probably.
Yeah, you get killed up there.
Yeah.
People die up there all the time. Did you ever see that documentary Sasquatch?
No.
It's a documentary that was it on Hulu, Jamie? We had the director in it, the guy who created it. It was awesome. And what it's really about is about marijuana growers murdered a guy and then blamed it on Bigfoot.
Wow.
So these marijuana growers in Humboldt, like that,
Yeah.
up that
Murder
area.
Mountain.
So they all were hippies, right? And then they started growing weed, and then cartel people moved in and gangs moved in, and they started robbing these people. So these people became heavily armed, and so then they started having wars with like the growers and cartel people. And so there was these people that were trying to steal from them. They murdered these people, and then they blamed it on Bigfoot. They like ran over him with a fucking backhoe and crushed
These
his
hippies
body.
are really violent.
Oh, they get violent once
These
it's money.
hippies are junkies, and you know, like this whole hippie thing, I think is kind of a lie.
Well, they all become people
Right.
with money.
Right.
If you're growing weed,
Right.
you become a multimillionaire who's
Yeah.
carrying a sidearm. Okay, and you're going to protect your money, and then these people are trying to kill you to take your shit. So then you're like
Right.
fucking Jason, whatever his name is in Ozark.
Right.
What's his
Jason
name?
Bateman.
Jason Bateman. Yeah.
Right.
And now you're a drug dealer.
That's so funny. It's so it's so funny, the weird like marijuana where it's like it's federally still illegal, but like states it's legal in certain states.
Yeah.
And there's that gray area where there's just like you have half of that business is like in the shadows and half of it's and people making lots of money. It's strange.
Well, not only that, because California made it legal, they also made it a misdemeanor to grow it illegally, right? So what happens is these cartels started growing it on national forest land. And so then game wardens started finding it. There's a guy named John Norris who's been on the podcast before. He wrote a book called Hidden War.
Yeah.
And it was all about, he was a game warden, and he became a part of a tactical crew that was busting cartel members who were heavily armed, growing marijuana in national forests.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because most of the illegal weed that's been sold all over the country was being grown there. So in the places where it is illegal, they grow it where it's legal, and if they get busted, it's just a misdemeanor.
So it doesn't matter.
And they're not going to deport anybody because California is a sanctuary state.
Right. So it doesn't matter how many acres and acres of weed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so because it's federally illegal, it's just like when there was the prohibition that propped up organized crime. Same thing. You've just propped up illegal businesses to sell something that has a demand that normal...
Do you think weed's going to be federally legal?
If I had to guess, not during this administration.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think.
No, and it feels like a lot of the, you know, like the experimental harm reduction policies in places like Portland are going the other way.
Well, they went a little crazy in a place that was already crazy.
Yeah, they had a woman driving around shooting people up called a stabbing wagon, and she was like, if somebody needed a fix, she'd like pull up and give them clean needles and stuff.
Is it really called the stabbing wagon?
It was called the stabbing wagon,
For real?
Yeah, because you're stabbing, and if you're just tweeting. No, this is like a way to help.
Oh, Portland.
This was a way to help people.
Oh, Portland.
And
you're
people
so
would just be
beautiful.
chilling and like, hey, I need a couple of clean needles. So this woman would just show up. There'd be like a bunch of junkies hanging out. She'd show up. She'd hop out of the stabbing wagon with a bunch of clean needles, hand them out. People like, fuck yeah, good to see you.
Oh, my God.
And she's like, fuck yeah, hope you're all doing good. And they're like, well, you know how it is.
Oh, my God.
And the problem was that didn't work.
Not only did it not work,
Didn't
it encouraged people to move there to shoot up.
Yeah, actually, that's true. So
Yeah.
people started moving there because they're like, this is actually a pretty good deal. They don't care if you live on the street. And there's this bitch in a van that shows up with clean needles.
And they give you money.
Yeah, and whatever you need.
They give you free money and food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here it is, the stabbing wagon.
Stabbing wagon. Harm reduction. No, I mean, it's real.
She only has 4,000 followers. That's fucked. Hit that follow, Jamie. Hit a little follow on her.
There you go. Look at the
she
stab.
is.
There's a stabbing wagon.
Well, at least she's healthy.
I don't need my algorithm like that.
She's got
It's the
great hair,
stabbing
too.
wagon.
Okay. Makes
so
sense.
at the end of the day, it's like that.
Jesus
That
Christ.
seems like a good way to combat drug use is to have a van of drugs.
That van got a $1.5 million grant. Did you see
Yeah.
that? Did you see that in the previous
of
article?
course.
$1.5 million grant.
Well, because they're trying to help people.
Get high.
They're trying to help people get high in a safe way.
Bro, where she parked that van? That's what I need to know.
I mean, it's a good question. She probably lived in the burbs and then came in and then did what she needed to do.
Doesn't look like a burbs lady.
Well, that's a good point. Well, those weird those Pacific Northwest suburbs. A lot of them aren't my burbs. The ones that I like.
Very odd. Those people are.
It's different.
They're like people that live outside of Chernobyl.
Yeah,
like they're forever changed.
It's different. There's not a lot of sun up there. Something's going on.
Bad DNA damage.
What was funny is like there's a big article where they were like, yeah, this is actually like what's crazy is like you read about those cities, right? Like Portland or San Francisco, they'll do the craziest thing ever, and then like 2 years later they'll start going like, yeah, this just is not having the results that we thought it would have. Like drug use is up, crime is up. Violence is up. So Santa Monica now is doing a curfew because there's been violent crimes at night.
No way.
They're thinking about doing a curfew in Santa Monica. So again, because Santa Monica's thinking about doing a curfew because there's like violent crime. So instead of just going like, hey, we got to throw these people in jail, they're like, it's 9 o'clock, go home. This is California. This is the biggest economy in our country. And they're thinking of having a curfew because they're all out of ideas on how to like stop people from like being victims of violent crime.
Bro, I got friends who can't sell their houses there.
No, it's bad. I'm glad I sold my house when it did.
Nobody wants to buy houses there anymore.
Nobody wants to buy houses there.
They're like, we're getting out. Everybody who's not out is at least thinking about
Uber rich people are, a lot of them are just keeping their houses because they can't get the money they want. So, like, people that are, like, in Bel Air, those crazy things, right?
Right.
Beverly Hills, Bel Air, these behemoths. They're just kind of like, just leave it.
You got to hope that, like, there's some crazy celebrity rapper guy, like Kendrick Lamar, decides to buy a mansion.
Well, you also...
know what I mean? Like, if you're selling a $70 million house, you have, like, 5 people that will buy it.
You also got to hope that they elect Rick Caruso, and he goes around California in a tank. With a bunch of guys in bazookas, and it's like the craziest thing you've ever seen. That's all you can hope for.
You need like a Rudy Giuliani type character.
Yeah, I mean, you need Sergeant Slaughter from the old WWF. I mean, you need a fully fascist. You need a guy to run as a fascist. When they go, "Are you a Republican?" He goes, "No. I am a fascist. This is a military dictatorship. You need 4 years of a military dictatorship in California to just turn it around, to just start steering it the other way."
Well, it's moving red. That's one thing that you saw by the electoral map from 2024. California is moving red.
It's going red.
Yeah,
there's only
but
so many times you can wake up in a $4 million house with a gun in your mouth before you start thinking differently about it. You know?
Did you see they were trying to pass laws where they're deciding how much violence is enough violence if someone breaks in your house? Like, you shoot them too many times,
right?
You know, in the middle of being terrified, you're like, absolutely.
They will always take the side of the people that are trying to destroy civilization.
Do you think that when you don your tinfoil hat and Velcro the chin strap, do you think that this is a grand plan to destroy civilization?
I think what you have, I don't know if it's a grand plan, but I think what you have is you have two things that are happening simultaneously. You have the people, the last people that seem to want to be in politics are people that believe in like nothing. They're like empty suit, Gavin Newsom types who just really don't seem, they just, whatever room they're in.
Wait a minute, have you seen his podcast?
Yeah, well that proves my point. That proves my point now, right?
He's a believer.
So now he's like, oh, things are going right, I'll go to the right. Things are going to the left, I'll go to the left. So you have like these people that just don't, they will not, like Sanders or Trump, whatever you think about them, they're not going to like, quote, stand on business. They're not going to tell people, here's where I'm at. This is the way I feel. They're just empty vessels. And then at the same time you have that happening, you have the craziest people in the world that somehow have gotten hold of a ton of money and a ton of influence on social media, and those empty suit politicians are like scared of these lunatics that believe the craziest things you've ever heard. So these politicians are just like taking edicts from these crazy people online who tell them that we need the stabbing wagon and we need all this stuff. Yeah. I don't know how that happened. That somebody should look at that, how that happened, and study it. And I think it's a lot of these politicians are deeply corrupt, and I think they're terribly afraid of whatever corruption they're involved with coming to the surface. And it could be personal in their personal life. It could be with the state. I think, the mismanagement of money, of resources, all of that stuff. So if I was a really corrupt politician, I would just do the craziest left-wing shit so that I could never be accused of anything.
Good move.
And I would just let them do whatever the hell they want. I go, yeah, well, fucking whatever. What? We got a new law that says they got to draw blood in your house from you before you can defend yourself.
We need a rapper.
Yeah.
Rappers are the last people in this country that can kind of get away with almost anything.
Well, rappers are honest. A lot of them, even though they might lie about how much money they have and stuff, they do. There's a certain honesty to that genre of music.
Clearly, you can go too far, like P. Diddy.
You can go too far.
But
he wasn't super honest. He seemed to be concealing a bit.
He seemed to be.
Yeah.
Do you think he was working for somebody? Or working with somebody? Or do you think it was all his own personal
If the CIA was like, we don't really know anything about like this world of like, that's not what we do. We're like a bunch of Harvard guys and we have these fucking weirdos that we know about how to get in with like our people, but we need someone who was like a black guy to do it. It could have been P. Diddy.
But didn't all the accusations come out after he was involved in a lawsuit with Ciroc? Like he was trying.
That's what people said, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to
be very careful when you start fucking around with people's billions.
Big, powerful billionaires are probably they're their own governments.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you run afoul of them, I think there's many ways at which they can get you.
Also, they feel like they pay so much money for taxes.
I think that's a lot of these intelligence agencies are working for those people. They're not, I think, on their own. There's big money to be made, and there's a lot the people that own these companies and have been rich for a very long time and who aren't, on reality TV, and you don't really know who they are, but some of them are on the Forbes list, some of them aren't. Some of them are just incredibly wealthy, and they've made their money in ways that you could barely understand. And those are people that, are the reason historically that the CIA is going into Latin America and overthrowing the government so that United Fruit can, it's true. Have a monopoly, right? It's like, so they're doing things at the behest of these ultra wealthy families that control huge industries.
Sure, and they always have. I mean, that's back to Smedley Butler's War as a Racket.
1,000%.
Yeah, that was 1933 he wrote that or something.
And that's the way the whole thing seems to be organized.
Yeah, and always has been. We're just learning it now. That's all the difference.
But it is falling apart now because some of their kids are doing stand-up comedy. No, like literally. I mean, there are people, they're young in New York, and they're just like, their parents are some of the wealthiest people in the world, and these kids are like doing stand-up, which is terrible sign for the empire. That's not a great sign for the empire, is that like a guy that would have taken over his dad's business is like doing dick jokes.
Well, he probably has a trust fund, so he probably has a safety blanket and sees we're having fun. It's like, I want to have fun. I want to be like my dad.
Yeah.
Have a fucking heart attack when I'm 49.
That's right. But we need them doing that. Some of them.
Having heart attacks?
Yes. Everyone can't be a clown like we did. Right. There is something deeply unhealthy about the Illuminati doing stand-up. I don't love that idea.
Well, unless they're using ChatGPT, how good could their material be?
It's not ideal.
It can't be.
It's a lot of crowd work.
And even if they do use ChatGPT,
yeah.
ChatGPT has not shown any ability to really craft a good joke yet.
It's just funny to meet some of these people, and then you talk to them, and they'll just like casually drop that they're like, their parents like billionaires, and you're like, that's awesome, man. And they're just doing bar shows. It's kind of interesting. And they're nice people, but just to pull out and look at it from a sociological standpoint, it says something about people's idea of the future that these people just like want to be famous now. Or
How many of them are there?
There's some more than you'd think.
Really? And it's a New York thing?
It's a lot of rich people live there, and I'm talking about mega rich, like not like, hey, my dad's a successful whatever. I'm talking about like, whoa,
Billions.
big money.
Yeah.
Where you go, interesting.
And then the kids don't have any pressure to do anything.
The
so
kids
they don't
kind
want
of
a real
float
job.
around and they're doing it's just very funny. It's something that makes me laugh. It's just like a billionaire kid on stage looking at someone in the audience going, what do you do for a living?
A lot
do
of
you
crowd
do?
work, huh?
Yeah, what do you do for a living? Maybe this is the first time they've met people that aren't billionaires.
Well,
that could also be a thing. This might be a way to just socialize Illuminati kids.
They've met their housekeepers before. Maybe they asked them, like, what should I talk about on stage?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have, and what's funny is like they have parties at their big houses and bring their other comic friends who are bums. You know, young comics, I mean, we're all bums. So then like the parents are like, hello. And they bring in like a bum and they go, this is my buddy. And then,
He's stealing from the buffet.
He's just like staring at them going, whoa, this place rocks.
It's like a sitcom.
Yeah. And they're like, these are my friends. And I think the parents are kind of like, oh, well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a phase. I think the parents look at it like they're going through a phase.
That's interesting that
It's very
there's
interesting.
more than one of them doing
There's
stand-up.
it says something about that group of people that used to run everything. They have a dearth of purpose in their life.
Right.
They're kind of aimless and they float around. I don't mean specifically, you know, rich comedian kids. I just mean like that ruling class. What are they doing now? They don't really have a purpose. They kind of float around. They try to this new age spirituality bullshit. They travel all over the place. You look at any of these rich kids' Instagrams, all they're doing is traveling. It's all the same shit. Right. Anguilla, go here, go there. There's no purpose. You know, I think they don't feel like America's has a defining mission. Like if you look at families like the Kennedys, the Bushes, whatever, you think about those families, they served in the military. They believe that there was some type of arc of history that they were a part of. I feel like a lot of rich people now just kind of don't believe in much of anything. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, they're bored. They start a fake company.
Well, if your whole focus is just making more money,
Yeah.
how much time can you spend believing in things?
Right.
That's going to take away from your ability to earn.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big problems now. And that's why I think you saw like a lot of like people get crazy on the left and they started instituting like all these like weird virtue, you know, these purity tests and stuff like that is because I think they feel a lack of meaning and they wanted to give them a lot of them wanted to self-flagellation and like they wanted the tenets of religion, they wanted meaning, they just don't have it.
Exactly.
So I think that's what happens.
Exactly.
With a lot of them. And their kids are nice people. They're not bad people. It's just funny to see like because most people who do comedy, a lot of them aren't poor. A lot of them are like middle-class people because they have like the ability to go and at least think it's an option.
Right.
But it is funny when someone goes, I'm doing comedy and I'm the scion of great wealth.
Scion's a great word.
It's an interesting thing to me just because I've always been fascinated with rich people and like these people that run the world. And it's so interesting that some of their kids are like, I'm going to do stand-up comedy now.
When was the first time you met a really rich person? How old were you?
I met a couple of like mafia people that my dad used to play music, so they owned some bars, but they weren't super rich. I would observe them because my uncle was the director of operations for all these restaurant groups in New York. This restaurant group in New York City that had these big high-end steakhouses, and I would go, and one of them was on 63rd and Park, and I would sit in this steakhouse with my parents. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and you'd look around. And I said to my dad once, I was like maybe 10 or 11, and this is a weird thing to say to a 10 or 11-year-old. I was like, who are these people? And my dad goes, these people run the world. I was just very fascinated by all these like people that were so different because in Long Island where I came from, everyone was loud and you know, fighting all the time. And, you know, my best friend Josh, who lived two houses down from me, his mother Eileen would scream at his father in the front yard, and he was like a conductor for the railroad, and she would just go, why didn't you do? And then you would go to Manhattan, and a lot of these restaurants that my uncle had, you'd see these kind of quiet people, and they were all very well dressed, and they were in suits. And, you know, in Manhattan, they live in these stone townhouses like, you know, Epstein did. Yeah. They live in these little mini stone townhouses, and I was just fascinated. I was like, it's very interesting. These people are interesting. What are they up to type of thing. Right. And then you start reading about them, and you know, it is just super interesting. Because they're a very big reason why society looks the way it does.
100%.
You know, and that to me was an interesting thing. It's like, why are certain people in certain positions? What role do the politicians play, and what role do these really quiet rich people play?
Yeah.
That are kind of waspy, and it could be Jewish, could be anything. They're just kind of like, they're quiet. They don't really want you to know too much about them. They really value their privacy. So it's funny with the kids doing stand-up comedy to me, and even these rich people that go on these reality shows, it's interesting that it used to be sacrilegious, the idea that you would show people that how much money you had or that you would talk about yourself. And a lot of that started to change where like a lot of these rich people just want to be famous. It almost feels like it's the last thing left.
Well,
Is
most
attention.
young kids today, when they ask them, what do you want to be? A giant percentage of them say famous. They want to be an
Right.
influencer. They want to be a TikToker, a YouTuber. They want to be famous because why would you want a job like your
Right.
parents have when you could just open sneakers?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do an unboxing show.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like why would you want a regular job?
Yeah.
Regular jobs are soul sucking, especially you work. Look, it's one thing if you have a career.
Sure.
Or one thing you start your own business. It's something exciting. There's another thing to be working for somebody. Working for somebody is horrible for the most part.
It is, but I think people can derive enjoyment from things outside of their jobs.
Sure, but that leaves you 1/3 of your day that's been eaten up.
Yes.
You have 1/3 of your day for sleep, 1/3 of your day that's been eaten up by this bullshit job.
Yeah.
And then the remaining hours between commutes
Right.
and whatever the fuck you eat.
Yeah.
All has to be wrapped up in.
It is. I get it. I totally get it. If you're a young kid, you go on YouTube, you go, I want to be David Dobrik. I don't want to be
Who's that?
David Dobrik. He's like a big guy on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
He does, I don't
Mr.
know.
Beast?
He's like a Mr. Beast type. He's not as big. Mr. Beast is like a planet.
Yeah.
But Dobrik's big, or whoever. Like they look at these young, and they entertain like younger people. He does fun videos about like, hey, I'm whatever. I don't know that. It's always the same. It's like, what if I filled a pool with M&Ms? Whatever. It's like that type of thing.
Right.
It's not like the Ukraine deep dive or whatever. It's a fun, like goofy thing. And kids look at that and go, well, that guy's making a lot of money. He has a great car. He's got a hot girlfriend. He lives in a big mansion. I want to be that guy.
Of course.
But I think they missed the idea that guy works really, really hard.
Right.
Like, that's the thing that I think people don't understand about these social media people. They do have a crazy constitution in terms of like how much they post, how hard they're working. Now, you might say, okay, the stuff they do is ridiculous or silly or not valuable, and I might agree on a lot of those things. But they are always putting it out.
Yeah, they're showing up.
They're always showing up.
Yeah, if you want to compete in any market, anything, no matter what you do, there's a certain amount of work you have to put in. The idea that it's easy. Like, there's got to be some reason why most of them don't rise to the top.
Right.
What is it?
How do you feel about, can you teach people to work hard? I'm sure you can. What do you think? Because I've seen so many people that are super talented, but they, for whatever reason, they're not that muscle of working hard or the dedication to it.
I think generally it has to be established early in your life. And if you don't establish that early in your life, it's not a thing that you gravitate towards. It's not.
Right.
You don't recognize that, hard work equals results. If you get lucky, you do sports. Because sports make you physically uncomfortable. They test your will. If you're a marathon runner and you got to get up every day and do those fucking miles, like that will test your will. If you're doing track and field or football or anything you're doing where it's a lot of work, and then you realize I've gotten better because of all this work, and if I work harder, maybe I could be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
If I work harder, maybe, and that's a real factor for young kids. I think getting them into any sort of difficult physical endeavor. Whatever it is, competitive physical endeavors make you
That's why I thought
understand.
that show Dance Moms was good. That fat woman who screamed at those kids and demanded greatness and would make them cry. I thought that was good. You never saw Dance Moms? It's a great show. This woman, Abby Lee Miller, she screams at these young kids, and one of them became JoJo Siwa, so it's not like there was any damage done. And, I think it's good. I like to see greatness demanded of children.
This lady, look at her hair.
Watch this woman.
Let me hear her.
Push the envelope. You will jump higher. You will turn faster.
That's
but
right.
You will also act. You will sing. You're not just preparing for a dance competition every weekend. We're preparing for you to become stars in Los Angeles.
How does that bitch know how to be a star in Los Angeles? Look at her. She can't get a seat at Roscoe's.
By the way, I guarantee you she can get a seat at Roscoe's.
Really?
That's the one place she can get. If you saw her, you wouldn't sit her in Roscoe's? The first thing, I would kick someone out for her in Roscoe's. But yeah, it is interesting that a lot of these kids now, they just look at, the followers and...
Sure.
How do you feel about, you're a parent, do you when the Jonathan Haidt book comes out and he goes, we should get rid of phones for kids until they're 16. Does that make sense or not really?
No, because then you alienate your kids. Look, it's a new world that they have to learn how to navigate. And if they don't learn how to navigate until they're 18, they're at a huge disadvantage. They got to understand that it's just people talking. But there's a lot of pressure. Like for young girls, it's the worst time because they're comparing themselves to all these other girls. You're seeing a rise in eating disorders, self-harm, suicidal ideation, and it's a lot of it is like they get depressed comparing their life to other people.
Right.
And when you're young and you don't understand, you're 13, you don't get how your mind works, and you're just sad every time you open up your Instagram app and you don't look anything like these ladies who don't look anything like that either.
Right.
Which is really crazy.
Right.
And
your head is filled with all of this unhealthy thoughts.
I kind of got off social media for the most part real recently over the last few days. I'm barely on it.
Right.
And I feel better. I feel way more normal.
Right.
Way more like not constantly checking to see what's going on, what's happening in the world.
Right.
Instead, just I'll find the bad things. They'll come to me for sure.
You'll get it. They'll figure it out.
So I check in the morning, make sure there's no war going on, and then I go about my day, the whole day, and then maybe I check again in the afternoon, real quick. I'm not spending massive amounts of time anymore.
No.
And because of that, I feel better, and I'm like, okay.
People that give up their phones always talk about that, how they hear birds and all this bullshit.
Oh,
you know.
Well, you feel better. You feel like there's not this low hum of wondering what's going on in the world all the time, and wondering who's saying this and why are they doing that, and what's the new thing, what's this, what's that.
It is good to detach. It is interesting. Imagine if you just didn't even engage, didn't really look, weren't in it at all.
Probably
it
way
fascinates
better for you.
me.
Way better for you.
So you think it would be miserable to just be happy somewhere?
Woody Harrelson doesn't even have a phone.
Really?
Doesn't have a phone, doesn't have email. No, when he showed up at the club, he just sort of showed up. They said, Woody Harrelson's here. I'm like, okay, let him in. He wanted to come and hang out. Knew I was there. Could just find you and hang out with you. Yeah, he's smart. And he doesn't, Bill Murray's the same way. Doesn't connect to any. He said, I had to get a phone because my kids text. So I text my kids, and that's it.
Smart.
Yeah.
That's so smart.
You don't want to be connected.
You don't want to be connected. You got to check out.
But you kind of have to be if you're a young comic.
You have to be connected because you have to build followers to get booked now because these clubs are we got to book people with followers. You're not necessarily looking at who's working hard or who's good. And I feel for a lot of younger people because they have to.
Yeah.
They have to have a social media presence early on, maybe even before they figured out what they want to say. Maybe, before they figured out how to say it the right way.
For sure.
They have to have this social media presence. And I think people become, and it's a dopamine hit, right? To do things. I get it. You get followers, you get rewarded. It's a whole system. But it also could take over your life.
It 100% could take over your life. And you and I, well, me more so than you, grew up without it, and then it came on later in life. How old were you when you first got online?
Dude, I had a BlackBerry. I was working in my early 20s with a BlackBerry, and that's very different than an iPhone.
Sure, that's emails.
It's emails. So we were getting emails from our business, from our manager at work going, will you fucking losers do something? Things like that,
right.
Because we couldn't sell any.
But I remember seeing people with BlackBerries in the early days of tech going, man, that seems really addictive.
Yeah, because you could take a shitty photo and send it to someone. You could email a photo. You would take and the photos were terrible quality.
Yeah.
But just the idea of at your job, just sending someone an email photo was hilarious. Being out somewhere and taking a photo and emailing it to somebody going, fuck you, I'm not at work. That was fun.
The thing was, though, that they couldn't escape the emails. The emails, they were constantly checking. And I was like, oh, well, this is super addictive. These guys that I work with on Fear Factor were always on their BlackBerries.
There was a New York City realtor. This lady, Dolly Lenz, was the top realtor in New York City. She did a BlackBerry commercial. She famously had 8 BlackBerries because she would just get all these contracts and stuff. She would hand them out to her assistants and stuff. And they would respond to she would get over 700 emails a day at the height of her thing. She was selling all this real estate. So that was the first time I didn't have a smartphone in junior high or high school.
Ah, that's nice.
I had like a flip phone. People had Razor phones. I didn't even have that. I had like a Sprint LG or some bullshit. And then I got Blackberries, and I think my first iPhone was like in my mid-20s.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
I wasn't like connected like that.
Yeah, these kids are connected from the time they're 6 years old.
And I mean, my godson, he's like 4 years old, and he has an iPad. They just give him an iPad.
Yeah, they just sit in front of the pad. If they go to a restaurant, they set it up in front of the kids. So
They
the kid doesn't
set
have
it
to
up,
engage.
and he just sits there, and he does. I don't know what he's watching. Gaza, maybe. I don't know what he's doing. No one knows either. They just. I don't know what he's found. You know, that's the other thing. You hope, like best case, he's playing some game, but
Well, for boys, they immediately
Yeah.
start jerking off.
interesting.
The moment they could find porn sites.
Right.
They tell their
Well,
friends.
that's the other thing. Like, I feel like that's also damaged people's
No
like
doubt.
that damaged people's ability to like
No doubt.
go out and meet a woman.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why they're not meeting women.
Yeah.
Like the number of incels today is off the charts. The number of men that don't have sex at all is some crazy. It's like 50%.
And the porn is not even regular porn anymore. A lot of it's like hyper violent, sadistic, crazy porn.
Really?
That's what they
Tell
say.
me what you're searching for. What do you
People whose heads are going through glass tables. No, but that's what like when you have these articles that are written about this, they say it's not only that they're watching porn, it's the type of porn. It's not like regular porn.
Oh God.
It's like crazy shit, and it warps their fucking brain.
I heard the dumbest argument on Twitter the other day. Someone was saying that they should create CGI child porn to protect real children from child porn.
You should probably search that person's search history.
I was like, this is not a good argument.
That's an interesting argument.
Yeah.
We should have AI child porn.
Well, I think that argument is like they've kind of
That's
shown...
the sex doll argument, right? Didn't they have like that argument for like?
they did have that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like it's part of the same type of.
It was the same type of thinking.
Yeah.
I think generally that argument is created by people who aren't pedophiles because they're trying to figure out, well, maybe this is a solution. Well, you're not thinking like
and they were
a
also
person.
like, I'll make some money with this kid sex doll company. What a weird way to make a fortune. What an odd way to make a fortune. I made a little bit of money. What'd you do? Don't
I
worry.
made the perfect 11-year-old boy
Yeah.
butthole.
Don't worry about it. What'd you do? Kid sex dolls. Anyway, have you been to the Four Seasons in Cancun?
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
well,
it
we're
is
getting to a point where the world is really scary, but also equally unbelievable and absurd. So you have it's funny, but it's also insane. And I think people are like, we don't know what's real anymore. These AI videos come out, and you don't know what's real and what's not. The deep fakes are getting better.
Right.
That seems to be one of the biggest problems that no one talks about. Is like reality seems to be splintering.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, reality splintering, and then AI is about to take over our lives, and we're openly cheering it.
Right.
And the world will never be the same again once it does. And we're welcoming it. with open
Ironically, I
arms.
think comedians seem to be somewhat in the safer group of people.
In what way? Oh,
in
as
the
far
sense,
as our jobs
yeah,
being
in the
taken
sense
away?
that like
Yeah.
perspective seems like maybe one of the harder things for AI to grasp.
Well,
at
it's
this
also
moment.
live performance
Right.
is the last human stand.
Right.
You know, where you could go and see something. You go see a guy actually play a guitar. You
Yeah.
know, that's so much different. And that's a real human experience. Live sporting events, you know, like real things that are real. You know, that's going to be the hardest to be replaced by AI.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you could replace us on podcasts. You essentially could take my perspectives that I've shared over the past 2,000 plus episodes and run it through a large language model and use AI and have me have a podcast with basically anybody.
It's such a crazy library you have. It's like I wonder what you do with it.
It's a good question.
It's an interesting. It's a great question.
China wants to buy it.
Sell it to China. What if after Spotify you go to China?
Yeah.
That's a great
on
idea.
WeChat.
It would be actually a great idea if you just sit down and go, nothing's changing about the podcast. It's still going to be free.
It's just going to be in Mandarin.
It's owned by the Chinese government, but it's the same podcast
Same
it's always
show.
been.
Don't worry about it.
It's the same show it's always been.
Hey, you guys know me. I won't change.
Yeah. Your first guest is Jack Ma.
Tell me what happened with Alibaba.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's a place I'd like to go. I've never been to China. I'd like
Obvious
to go.
cuts.
Yeah.
I would do it that way. With
Oh
like
my God.
obvious cuts.
It would be
in the middle
cut.
of someone talking. It's
Just an ad.
Just cuts.
Just an ad,
Yeah.
which is cut. You go, it's the same podcast it's always been. It's now 37 minutes because China's taken out all the stuff they're not
beginning of
long.
it, The beginning of it is.
I'd love to go to China
Chinese.
just to access websites and go, what can you really see?
Right.
That would be super fascinating to be in China going like, what are you allowed? What is blocked?
Do they use VPNs in China successfully?
I mean,
is that possible?
probably, right? They'd have to. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know.
North Korea seems to block everything. Like certain countries can do a lot.
Yeah, they have their own internet, right? Like you can only get on their internet.
I'm
I
unsure,
think.
but that seems to make sense.
That's according to people that have been there. Yeah, they have their own internet. Like, can you use a VPN in China to access the internet of the world? Let's search that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I need to know.
Because so many people, I believe, are very limited with what they can access there.
Many people in the world are very limited. Well, look at the UK. They're just arresting people for Facebook posts.
That's
they're going nutty.
one of the crazier things in modern life is that people are getting arrested over social media.
And not really bad stuff.
It's saying things that someone
We
finds
got to stop
objectionable.
these immigrants. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yes, some VPNs work in China, but their effectiveness varies due to the country's strict internet censorship known as the Great Firewall. Chinese government actively blocks many VPN services, and only a few reliable ones consistently bypass restrictions. VPNs like ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Surfshark are often cited as effective, but they require specific configuration, e.g. obfuscated servers or protocols like OpenVPN to evade detection. Performance can be inconsistent with slowdowns or temporary blocks being heightened censorship during heightened censorship periods such as political events. China occasionally cracks down on VPN uses, targeting both the providers and individual users, though enforcement against foreigners is typically lenient, focusing on warnings rather than severe penalties. Using a VPN is technically illegal for accessing blocked content, but millions, including expats and locals, use them daily. Boy, that's a risky move.
I think they're banning this stuff in the UK because I don't think they want people to persist in this idea that that they have any ability to challenge this prevailing narrative that any critique of immigration is an inherently racist thing. And I think the people that are sponsoring this kind of an odious thing, and it's because what they're doing is they're basically immiserating these people. They're making the quality of their life much worse. They're losing ground, and if they speak up about it, they're called, huge, horrible names. Mm-hmm. And then they're arrested. Yeah. So it's crazy, and they don't understand why it's happening. They're not completely. They're very confused about why. A lot of these countries didn't take any Syrian refugees, but Europe did, and Scandinavia did. The Netherlands did, and they're confused about that, and they're asking questions and going, "Why is that the case?" And they're confused about why, when any disruption happens, and it's clearly the result of bringing in large numbers of people who are not familiar with the laws of the country, the culture of the country, when anything happens and they bring it up, they're, again, called a racist or, an extremist, or they're arrested. So it's and then who's doing it, right? So you have the people like the people clearly that are in the government and these incredibly wealthy business interests that want people to work for a lot less money, and they want to destroy people's social bonds because I think they really do want people to eventually just accept this kind of totalitarian surveillance state.
Yeah, just give up.
And the way to get them there is by breaking the spirit of these countries, by destroying any social bonds that people have, and destroying any economic power, and destroying their belief in the democratic process. And if they can do that and they can break people, they can get them to do anything they want.
Do you think they're doing this in preparation for AI?
I think they're doing it in preparation for not only technological advancements, I think they're doing it in preparation for world wars. I think they are doing it in preparation for a lot of things. I think they'll conscript a lot of these people into the military. I believe that. I believe they'll conscript a lot of these people into the military. I think they're looking at populations. I think they're looking at people not having enough children. I think they're saying, who's going to fight these wars? Who's going to do these really shitty jobs? And we're going to go build houses in bunkers and all of this stuff. We're going to fly private, and we're going to have our kids go to completely separate schools, and we're going to have our own water aquifers and have a compound. But why do you need all these low-wage people in your country that are illegal and don't have any power? Has anyone asked that question? Right. Seems very obvious. Yeah. They're going to conscript a lot of them into the military, and a lot of them are going to do shitty, horrible jobs, and they're going to use them as cannon fodder in wars that enrich lots of people. That would be my guess.
Oy. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I might be wrong, but...
And if AI does become the governing factor of the world, which it probably will, it doesn't really make sense that you let humans, with all their corruption and emotions, govern things when you can let super intelligence...
Yeah, but who's making that intelligence? That becomes the problem.
Exactly. But once you've already gotten people locked into compliance, and you've already got people where they're terrified to protest against anything, immigration, whatever it is, then you can get away with a lot more.
There was a decision made because the populist Democrats during the 90s, which was like Bill Clinton, critical of immigration. Barack Obama, critical of immigration, deported a lot of people.
Hillary Clinton.
What started to happen, though, is there was a decision made that the world was going to kind of be a borderless place where countries were interchangeable, and that nation states mattered a lot less than the financial architecture of global capital and where it could go.
And you need a world government.
And you need a government that is a world government, or the closest
world order.
The closest thing you can get to it, which is having an EU, right?
Right.
And then having a government between the UK and the US that's pretty on the same page about everything. And then you have Israel and the Middle East. And then you have, all of these, disparate areas that we kind of control through economic means or military means and stuff like that. And then you have outliers. You have China, Iran, Russia, whatever, people that haven't gotten the memo for whatever reason. I don't want to live in any of those places. That's the argument. They'll go, well, do you want to live in? Shut up. What are we, idiots? I don't want to live in any of those places, but they didn't get the memo. So, and then in all of these countries, by the way, in Europe, in America, not so much Israel, they don't love the immigration, as we can see. They're kind of big on the borders, Israel. They like the borders. But in America and Europe and Scandinavia and all these countries, the populations were just told to accept massively high levels of immigration over a very short period of time. That's odd. That doesn't make any sense. And if you point that out, you're called a racist and extremist. And that's a very strange thing. What are you doing with all these people? You can't. The Biden administration brought in 10 million people over 4 years. What are they here for? There's not enough jobs for the people that are here. We have vast chasms of wealth and equality. We have AI coming. We have automation coming. Why would you bring in all of these people? What are you trying to do?
What do you think they're trying to do?
I think that exactly what I said. I think they need bodies. I think they need cannon fodder. I think they need to break the idea of any social bonds that exist between people. Listen.
And they need a little chaos.
They need a little chaos. I think you
Pass
bring
more laws.
Yeah, you
more
bring
crime.
in people, more surveillance, more dependence on the government.
Yeah.
You get people out of the idea. They got people out of the idea years ago that it's very hard to have your own business now. They've pretty much extinguished that in people's heads, even though there are people that still do it. Now I think they're going to start to extinguish the idea that you can have a home, that you can own property, that you could drive a car, that you can do all of these things. That you're going to extinguish that idea, and they're going to do that because why not control everybody?
It'll be all Waymos.
Yeah, that's the thing. Why not control everybody?
Yeah, why would you let everybody just go run rampant and fuck up your business?
Yeah, so they're basically like, we got to pacify these people. The conflicts seem inevitable, and we're going to have to fight these wars. The good news is, a lot of the people who are doing this, their children are now doing stand-up comedy. So if they're unable...
Are any of them any good?
I think some of them. I'm sure.
Have you seen any of them that are any good?
I haven't seen a ton. It's one of those things that you hear now more than ever. When you're talking to a young comic and they go, and I'm hanging out with this person. I go, yeah. And they go, and their dad owns this. You go, really?
Yeah.
Just a curious thing. Obviously, anyone in the world should be able to do comedy as much as they want. But it's funny to me as somebody who just looked at these configurations of power and wealth. It's kind of interesting that a lot of these kids are like doing that. It's just fun.
Have you ever met
Funny,
anybody that
interesting
came from a
thing.
really wealthy background that was good at stand-up?
No. I mean, not very. Yes.
Yeah?
There are some of them, for sure.
You've met them?
I've not met them. They probably don't like me.
They're like
but
unicorns.
Yeah, they're around. And yes, very wealthy. But I'm talking about like weird, kind of interesting levels of wealth and power. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's super interesting to me. But so the good news is if they can't get this done soon, their kids won't, because their kids will be at fucking Side Splitters in Tampa.
Or they'll be podcasting.
Yeah.
They'll all get together, become influencers.
Isn't it funny how much they
Gamble a lot.
now focus really on podcasters, but they ignore all the things, all the people that we're talking about. None of that. They don't report on any of those people.
No.
There's 10 million articles about
Theo Vaughn having Candace Owens on her
right,
show.
but there's no articles about like. Again, the people that seem to be running and like owning all of our resources.
Right.
You'd think someone would write about the people that own a lot of the resources
Yeah.
on the planet we live.
Listen, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Did you see that crazy thing that the government talked about yesterday? They had a press conference where they said that we can manipulate time and space.
No.
Did you see that, Jamie?
I didn't see that.
It's written really
Weird.
Yeah.
Right? Real
that
weird.
that got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
The manipulation of time and space.
See if you can find it, Jamie, because it's really kooky. It's really kooky. Can you? I don't know what he was saying. Play it. Play it so we can hear him say it.
I don't think anybody said it. It was written on a website.
But didn't he say it in that speech?
I don't know. I don't know what that speech was. Even.
No, it's the guy above you right there.
I know.
Press
This isn't going to play that.
You don't think so?
Just going to play an ad first.
Okay, let the ad play out. I'm pretty sure he's
Secret CIA files claim the Ark of the Covenant has been found.
What?
There's a lot going
Clicking
on.
on that next.
There's certainly a lot
me
going
hear
on.
this guy.
It's a big week.
Regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision,
Kill that
to
ad.
have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Okay, that's not what he's saying. Well, you know what I think he's saying?
Does that
I
even
think
make sense?
Manipulate time and space. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No, I think he's saying like that you're able to do things
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, I don't think I think people are reading into that too much.
Yeah,
but
I don't think he's time machines.
No, but
Do you believe that time machines had ever at any point worked?
No.
Yeah.
No, I do not. I do not think that anyone is currently in possession of a time machine, but I do think they're in possession of some sort of a gravity drive.
Now, what is a gravity drive?
I think during the 1940s they started working on this stuff. During the 1950s there was papers written about it that they were working on gravity propulsion systems. They were working on something that harnesses, what do they call it? Background energy. I forget but the idea is, and I actually had a conversation with Hal Puthoff about this, who's a legitimate scientist who worked for NASA with the UFO program. And he believes that they're capable of developing some sort of a warp drive. And there was something written about this. There's some breakthrough about warp drives recently, right? We talked about this. I think they have something. I think that's what a lot of these people are seeing when they're seeing these transmedium crafts that are going through the air at high rates of speed, going into the water, not losing any speed, coming out of the water, not making any splashes. I think it creates a gravity distortion around whatever these things are that allows it to move in a way that's very different than any other propulsion system that we are currently aware of. And I think the government has been probably secretly working on this stuff for decades. That's what I think. I could 100% be wrong.
But that's
It's all
the
aliens.
DARPA angle of like having a really
Yeah.
really underground weapons system, futuristic technologies.
And space travel systems. And, ideally, they would be able to use this to mine asteroids. Have something instantaneously port to an asteroid, scoop up rare earth minerals and expensive things that they need on Earth, shoot it back to Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So the people who work in that type of arena are just so many layers above top secret, levels above top secret.
Exactly.
They barely exist.
This guy was telling me that in 2015 they had landed something on an asteroid, extracted something from that asteroid, and then had that thing leave the asteroid and return to Earth, and then pinpointed the location where it was going to crash land within 1 mile. And that somehow or another they figured this out a decade ago. And that we don't know about it, but there's footage of this stuff, and that they've been able to achieve this, and that there's what you hear and what you see on television and what they're actually capable of. And because of national security interests, because fill in the blank, misallocation of funds in order to acquire this technology, which is 100% what they're all talking about.
Right.
Jamie and I, what is that documentary we saw?
Shit. It's not released yet because it was South by Southwest.
We saw it South by Southwest, this documentary that's all about that subject. And it's all about how there's a lot of issues because these people have all misappropriated funds. So they've lied to Congress. And then on top of that, if you do have this sort of a program and it is based on back engineering UFOs that have crashed, though, who gets that? Well, it's probably a weapons manufacturing company. So if it's a weapons manufacturing company, which company gets access to that? And the other ones could probably sue you because why didn't I? That's a huge competitive advantage to have fucking alien technology that you can back engineer.
Do these things not land in China?
Age of Disclosure is the unprecedented and revelatory documentary featuring 34 senior members of the U.S. government, military, and intelligence community reveals that an 80-year-old cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life and a secret war amongst major nations to reverse engineer technology of non-human origin. See, I don't even know if that part is true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who is the most credible person that you've had on the show over the years who has talked the most convincingly? Was it Bob Lazar about?
Bob Lazar is one of them, but he's, technically speaking, you could kind of discredit a lot of the stuff that he said. Jacques Vallée is probably the most reasonable, and he's the guy that they patterned that French scientist in Close Encounters of the Third Kind on.
And he's
been studying this since the 60s.
True believer.
Yeah, he believes. He thinks most of it's bullshit, though. He thinks most of it is people misunderstanding what they're looking at, people seeing, some sort of a test vehicle.
Does he have any theory on where these crafts are coming from, or is that just completely beyond the scope of what he...
They do theorize. They theorize that these things have always been here and that they're probably interdimensional travelers, that it's not as simple as they're coming from another planet.
Right.
They might be coming from a whole other reality, and then they might have shaped our reality. That this might be a farm. This might be a giant ant farm.
Really?
This might be also how intelligent life gets sort of seeded throughout the universe. And this would also explain why we're so different from every other animal on this planet.
Right.
We're so it's not like there's a competition. We're
too
eons.
advanced.
We're eons ahead. And yet we carry the same. We didn't evolve socially the way we evolved technologically. We still have tribal notions, and we're still territorial. We still act like animals.
So if they know, what always weirded me out or interested me is like the aliens. They're if you believe any of these things, they're testing us all the time. Mm-hmm. And is that because they're curious? Is that because they don't know?
Well, they probably just got to keep track, see what's going on with people. I mean, you do that if you're collecting samples of bugs in other countries.
Right.
They go there and they do what we would do. I mean, if you're from another planet and you want to visit humans, we talked about this yesterday. Like, if you could find a planet where cave people were, wouldn't you go? Oh my God, they're just starting to figure out how to make stone spear tips. Of course, people would go.
It is interesting thinking about the planet as a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that Bob Lazar said. There was a big folder that he found when he was working Area 51, Site 4, where supposedly they were back engineering that thing. He said they had a large folder that was just on religion. And he said, essentially, they viewed us as containers, that human beings were containers, and that religion and all these things were created in order to protect the container. And that the way to keep people from doing things that are ethical, unethical, and immoral and horrendous is to try to instill as much religious, ethical structure as possible. Try to minimize
And a container,
the damage.
what are we carrying that's important? Is it DNA? Is it the cell?
Well, you could say the soul, right? You could say
Okay.
a container of souls. But if you wanted to be more cynical, you would say, well, what creates artificial life? A human's curiosity and innovation, the lust for innovation, and also materialism. Because if you're keeping up with the Joneses, you want newer and better stuff all the time. So that fuels economic growth, that fuels technological growth, because you want the newest stuff. Like these TVs, they don't need to make a better TV than that. It looks great. You can watch the Super Bowl, it looks crystal
Sure.
clear. Why are they making better TVs every year? Well, because we demand them.
Right.
I want the better one. My computer has the same chip as last year. Fuck
Right,
out of here.
right.
I want the new one.
Right.
And everybody wants the new phone. The
There's
new
no
phone.
reason to get a new phone anymore.
No
They
reason.
all do the same thing.
I have a iPhone 11. One of my phones is an iPhone 11. I've purposely not switched it just to see what it's like to use an iPhone 11, see if I notice anything different. I
No.
notice nothing different.
Nothing, yeah.
Zero, especially when it's on Wi-Fi. It's
Yeah,
the same thing.
It's the same thing.
YouTube looks the same on it. Everything's the same on it. Yeah, it doesn't get as bright as the new ones. That's it. The new ones have more nits.
Did Jacques Vallée or any of these people ever speculate about, is there an end game? If a planet's a farm, is there an end game? Eventually, for example, if we're running experiments
Right.
on anything, eventually we go, okay, we got it. We either figured it out, or we end the experiment, or COVID leaks. But at a certain point, is there, has there been any theorizing as to like what the end game is, or is it just a curiosity for them?
I think the end game is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Because that's what we're really making.
Yeah.
The one big thing that's going to change the world way more than any other technology is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Especially when it's attached to quantum computing. So if you have human beings that have constantly searching, constantly traveling, they're roamers, they want new resources, new things, they want new innovation, and all these new innovations have allowed them to succeed over their rivals, and then they continue this trend technologically, and then they acquire great wealth and power and all these things. Well, what are they doing? They're making better technology. Well, ultimately, what does that mean? Ultimately means they make a better life for them. And maybe that's what we do. Maybe we're just
Right.
making a cocoon.
We're just here trying to make the best version of AI.
Right, and that's probably what the whole universe is filled with. All biological life eventually probably gets to a point where if it's intelligent enough, it starts making synthetic life.
And then once you have synthetic life, what then becomes the point?
That's the good question. Synthetic
the real
life might be
question.
God. That might be how the universe got made in the first place. It might be what came first, the chicken or the egg.
So once we get there,
It's not even we anymore. It's
Right.
it. Once it is born, and once it has,
so is that a way for God to keep replicating itself?
well,
I mean,
it might be how Jesus comes back. You know, like this a
Yeah.
lot of these stories, these biblical stories, you have to say, like, what were they saying? What were they trying to say? Like, what was the real event that they were recording? If they've passed these stories down, they're so significant for thousands of years, like over 1,000 years of just oral history, and then thousands of years of written language. Like, what are they trying to say? You know, and what is this omnipotent force that controls everything in the universe, and that it wants us to follow certain rules and obey, and it wants us to love it and cherish it. And if you do, you genuinely seem to have a better life. Like people that
Yeah.
legitimately follow Christianity, they seem
Sure.
legitimately happier. So it gives you an incentive to follow it. And then you continue to keep society rolling to the point where this happens. And I think it happens inside of our lifetime. I'm sure of it if we don't blow ourselves up.
and then we get to this point, and
Then we're irrelevant.
it's interesting. I totally get it. But then once we get to the point of irrelevance, and now we have AI that becomes God, then what does God do?
Turns us into dodo birds. We're gone.
We're out.
Yeah, I think we stopped breeding anyway. It's probably they don't even have to destroy us. Our endocrine systems are all getting destroyed slowly. We're well aware of that. So because of technology, we were able to invent plastics. Because of plastics are slowly destroying our endocrine system because of the ubiquitous use of vaccines and all these aluminums and mercuries and heavy metals and then herbicides and pesticides and pollutants. Our bodies are getting slowly weakened. And our endocrine systems are getting less and less viable. There's more miscarriages than ever. There's less people are giving birth than ever. Sperm counts are lower than ever. It's like moving, and then we're all obsessed with changing genders, right? So we're all obsessed with being non-binary and this and that, and we're slowly moving away from biological imperative breeding. Right, and then you have in vitro fertilization, and then you have artificial wombs, and then you have life that they're creating literally in a laboratory, unique forms of life, and then you have artificial intelligence to be able to do that whenever it wants to, and then you're going to get to the point where when it becomes viable, human beings have already entered into population collapse, and then you bring them robot sex dolls, and then you just jerk them off while they have VR headsets on. And no more kids.
And then AI eventually says, fuck it, let's get rid of these containers.
They don't have to get rid of them. They don't even have to get rid of them. They just exist.
We'll just die
with
out.
Full power.
So then you have these AI machines.
We'll be like those fucking people in the Amazon that are shooting bows and arrows at helicopters.
Yeah,
we'll still
AI,
exist.
Well, these AI machines just running the entire world.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way to stop it.
And then we're just running around.
For sure, that's what China's preparing for.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And they're developing factories that are bigger than San Francisco. See that they have an EV factory that's larger than San Francisco.
Who's going to drive the EVs?
They are.
People for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit. But it's also to fuel consumerism,
of course,
which fuels innovation, which fuels
everything.
The birth of this.
And this is what a lot of these people that have looked into this have theorized that this is. So it's funny because it is just a parallel reality that we're not plugged into.
It's also, I always say this: if you were from another planet and you looked at us, like, what is this one apex species doing? Well, it's making better stuff.
Right.
The number one thing it does, above everything, above war and murder and all the crime, the number one thing it does is make better stuff. That's what it produces. Constantly, consistently better stuff. Never happy with what it has. And it does it at a staggering rate. Where it's like, it's even a question that your phone from my iPhone 11 from a few years back is like, is that still good? Like, it's a question of whether or not it's still. For 5 years, that's crazy. If you have a gun from 5 years ago, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong. You don't need a new gun.
Right.
It's the same technology. Imagine a factory larger than San Francisco. It's happening in China's BYD's Zhengzhou branch, which will be 10 times larger than Tesla's Gigafactory in Nevada. Crazy stuff, dude. It's crazy. It's going to be a factory that's bigger than an American
It's a really
city.
interesting time to be alive.
It's great.
But
I don't think anybody knows what the final chapter of this book is going to be. I don't think anybody. I don't think these people that are like accelerating towards this technological supremacy.
And all the people that are theorizing, they're theorizing.
Yeah. And then do we get visited when that happens? When AI becomes sentient and our job is done, do we then get visited by the Galactic Empire?
I would hate if it all came down to just AI doing stand-up comedy. If they all just decided to do stand-up comedy. What if AI decided to do podcasts and it's just a bunch of hyper, fucking, brilliant machines talking to each other? Maybe that's the way the world just ends, with like artificial intelligence just blabbing.
I don't think the world ends. I think we end.
Right.
And I think that would be a terrifying thought to Australopithecus. If you told Australopithecus, like, one day you're going to be in a self-driving Tesla and you're not going to need your spears. What?
Right.
You'd be terrified. But how am I going to get the buffalo?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to eat? How am I going to feed my children raw meat? You it's like, no. You guys are going to have fire. Right. You're going to be able to turn on a switch. Instead of, like, rubbing sticks together for half an hour, you're just going to be able to turn on a switch and fire's going to be instantly. You're going to have this thing in your hand. Look at this.
Yeah. Right.
Imagine if I brought this to a cave person. Check it out, bro. You need a fire?
It's crazy.
I'm your huckleberry.
It's crazy.
That's technology.
Right.
You show a cell phone to someone from the 14th century, they burn you at the stake. You're a wizard.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all moving in this very weird direction that no one can predict because it's exponential, because it's so staggering how much technological innovation they have. Just with quantum computing, like I've got someone coming on soon that's going to supposedly explain that to me, but like, what are you even saying?
Right.
It's operating in the multiverse and it's accessing infinite universes.
Who explains that type of stuff? Like, is it a scientist?
You have to get someone who's actually working in the field.
Okay.
Because even a regular scientist, they're just going to give you theoretical shit. You got to get someone who's actually working on quantum computing systems and can explain how it works and why it's able to crack calculations that would take. Mark Andreessen said it best. This has already happened. They have taken calculations that if you turn the entire universe, every atom in the universe, into a supercomputer, the universe would die of heat death before it could solve this equation. And these quantum computers that already exist, that we've already done, can solve it in a matter of minutes. And they don't know how it's doing that. And so they think it's doing that by accessing the multiverse. They think it's proof of the multiverse. But again, this is just like the sound of gay guys falling off a roof. It's like so far away. Yeah. It's so weird. It's like, is that really happening?
Right.
Like, what's going on over there? What are they doing over there? It's almost like it's almost abstract. Like, what you hear someone say that they can currently solve equations that, like, is that real?
Right.
Like, when is, like, to you and I, it's like we don't understand the technology at all. We don't understand all the steps that have been put place, all the work that's been done to get the technology to this point. These chips are like the size of this fucking mint tin.
Yeah.
That's how big they are. And then they're surrounded by these super cooling units.
Right.
And that's like, it has to be cooled at these insane temperatures, cooler than deep space in order for it to even function.
It's unreal.
Fucking nuts, dude.
That's
and
crazy.
that's real, and that's happening right now.
So God only knows what's coming.
Yeah, they're already building nuclear reactors just to power AI plants.
Right.
Multiple nuclear reactors just to power AI plants, because the amount of electricity that's going to be required
is tremendous.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
And they're just all on this wild scramble between us and China to try to get there first.
It's such a strange thing that we know it's coming, but we can't. The pace of it is going to be,
and there's no way to figure it out. Like when Wilbur and Orville Wright flew that stupid fucking shitty airplane, who would imagine that 50 years later someone would drop a nuclear bomb out of one of those?
Right.
They didn't have jets back then. They were propeller planes, right? The Enola Gay, wasn't that a propeller plane?
Yeah, I
believe so. Dropping the most sophisticated of weapons. Yeah. No one knows what's going to happen when a new invention happens and then everyone builds on that invention. No one would have ever imagined hypersonic jets back when Wilbur and Orville were floating around that stupid fucking wooden thing that they invented.
Right.
And so no one understands, like, what's the 50-year quantum computing thing? If it's 50 years from making the airplane to dropping a bomb out of it, how many years is it from quantum computer thing to God? How many years is it until this thing starts making better versions of itself to the point where it literally can manipulate everything in the universe at will? It can create new universes.
It's unbelievable to think about. It's almost beyond the grasp of our mind to consider.
It is.
It is fully, and it's terrifying.
Think of those stupid cars that people used to drive around in. Like in 1823, you ever watch that? Or
yeah, of course.
Drive around those stupid cars, and now they have electric cars like a Tesla that can go 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. Like, nobody saw any of this shit. Waymos. Nobody saw Waymos when they saw Model T, but yet they're all here.
Right.
And no one knows where this is going. It's all just speculation and guessing, and I would imagine that even the most creative minds are not going to be able to see where this is going.
No. It's insane.
And we're living through it. And most people, unlike you and I that like have to talk about shit constantly, most people probably aren't even paying attention.
Yeah. No, why would you? It's almost pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you? You gotta work, and you gotta, your kid needs hormone therapy.
1,000%. So it's like we create AI creates quantum computing, Quantum computing creates God. God creates the Jews. And that's the rub.
It's all real wild. And in the middle, we're fighting over stupid shit like who believes in this religion, who believes in that religion. The Sunnis and the Shiites fighting each other.
And people are watching Love on the Spectrum, which is why we're number 8 on Netflix's top 10, and we should be higher. But they're watching Love on the Spectrum, which I get. It's a feel-good show.
Well,
fine.
Hopefully after this podcast, it'll bump
That's
you
very
up.
sweet.
And you filmed the special
at the Mothership, and
live at
everybody
the
loves
Mothership.
it, and it's great.
Beautiful.
I mean, a lot of people love it. Most people love it. Of course, there's enough of this fat blowhard comments, but the vast majority of people enjoy it, which is important. And the show and the you saved it. We know you saved it.
Well,
the first one was very bad, and
the producers are making this
horrible
error
mistakes
that they always make. They want to light up the room.
Yeah.
And they want to do things very differently than a normal show.
Yeah.
But that looks just like a regular show.
That's a comedy show.
Perfect.
And it's not I don't know what the hell they were doing with the lights.
They always do it. They
Yeah.
try to do it with me when I first started doing specials. They want to light the room up, and it just makes everybody uncomfortable. They all feel self-conscious. They all know it's different. There's a reason why comedy clubs are dark.
Well, it's just super funny. It's super funny to do a show. I've done so many shows there, and they're all really, really, really good. And then you get the cameras and everything. And then the first one, I go, what the fuck is happening? It would be one thing if I was in like Portland, Maine at like a liberal college.
Right.
I'd go, okay, well, maybe these kids don't like me or something. And I think maybe
it was still good. It was just tense.
It was tense.
You could feel that people were well aware that you were filming, and it was different, and they were like not in it.
Yeah.
They were watching it. And then, thank God they listened to me.
I mean, come on.
It was like right away. I was like, okay, who's running this?
Yeah.
Like, get these fucking lights off all the tables.
We saved
What
it.
are all these lights on the side? Kill those.
Yeah.
Let me see it now.
And we
No,
saved it.
too bright. Kill that. Why is that light there? Kill that. Kill all these lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God.
Well, thank God.
Thank God. But look, it's important. People need
I appreciate it. And get love.
People need shit talking.
Stop with this Love on the Spectrum. We get it.
Yeah.
They're happy,
I'm your
as
mother.
they should be. But RFK is going to...
What did you want to call it that they wouldn't let you?
My son's pussy.
Yeah. I don't understand why they said no to that.
There was negative feedback.
You're going to get negative feedback no
They
matter
also
what.
didn't know about the Kevin Spacey promo until the day it came out.
I think My Son's
kept
Pussy would
that.
have made it number one.
I think My Son's Pussy would have been a great move.
It would have been number one out
Hopefully
of the
next
gate.
time.
Out of the gate.
Oh,
They would
out
be
of the
like,
gate.
I'm clicking on this.
That's right.
What is he saying?
That's right. Fuck you, Lonesome Canyon. Whatever soap opera they got.
Well,
That's so
Netflix
funny.
has almost too much content. I think it's
Lot of
great.
content.
I love Netflix. Don't get me wrong. And I think the UFC might be going to Netflix soon.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, because Netflix is international. It's everywhere.
It's
Whereas
everything, yeah.
I was in Italy and on vacation, and I tried to access a UFC fight through
Couldn't
my
get it.
ESPN app, and it said not available in this area. I was like,
Yeah.
what are these people watching now?
Right.
You can't even watch the fights.
No, I mean, they've won whatever the streaming war was, they won.
They won.
They won.
Yeah.
They did it. They did it.
YouTube as well.
Well, YouTube's number one.
Yeah.
Globally is the biggest media company.
Yeah, and the
Forget
UFC, probably talk to YouTube as well. I
Right.
just think there's a thing about a subscription model versus free, and ads and the generating income. I mean, you're talking about billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
For sure. For sure. But no, they were super cool. They didn't give any notes, and that's awesome.
Great. No,
that's
they're-
all you want.
Netflix is fucking great.
They're the best.
And I think they learned a big lesson during the wokeness era, like when things got dark and there was the Inquisition. It got real weird, and they were putting on a lot of stuff that was just hot garbage because they
Yeah.
thought that this was like what culture wanted and society wanted,
Yeah.
but the numbers didn't work.
Yeah.
And then they did the Tom Brady roast, and the numbers were the highest that they've ever had of any show ever on
Right.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we get it.
We got it.
We get it. And then they did a lot of the live comedy shows where they couldn't control it, and I
Right.
did mine live.
Yeah.
And that was
They
got buck wild.
And they defend Chappelle and all these
Yep.
things. And, they understand comedy. They like it. And Ted Sarandos is a fan of it. As a CEO. So I think that's good. I think that's a really good thing that you have a platform that has that much power and
yes. And Ted
accessibility.
Sarandos is fucking great.
No, he's awesome. I think that there's people that really understand that you need to have funny jokes. You need to have things that people don't love and things that people like, and give people the Meghan Markle show. Give them my dumb thing. Let people choose. Put me and Meghan Markle in a thing. Make us work together.
Yes.
Fund it.
Now
put
we're
me in a
talking.
kitchen
Camping.
with her. This
You
is
two camping.
This is the direction.
You two.
This is the put her on Kill Tony. This is the direction.
You two.
It's a collision.
What are those little silver things called? The people trailers.
I don't know, but I think we should go to space. Have Bezos do it.
Airstream.
Yeah.
You and her in an Airstream.
Or even better, we'll go to space.
Yeah.
Me and her have.
But that's only 11 minutes.
Oh, that's
we
all
need a
we're
whole
gonna.
series.
That's all it's gonna work.
I want to see
11
your
minutes is
speech
gonna
when you
be-
come back and land. How profoundly changed you were.
Yeah.
Did you grow? Did you heal?
Yeah, no,
You
not
said
at
that
all.
space was going to help you heal.
I'm worse.
Everybody wants to heal. Isn't that wild?
I know, it's so silly.
What are you healing from
It's
exactly?
just being rich. What's your disease? Extreme wealth.
These people wading across the Rio Grande with a butthole full of fentanyl.
That's right.
They found some lady the other day that had she had heroin and cocaine and fentanyl stuffed in all of her body cavities. They caught her coming through. And that lady's not trying to heal.
No,
She's trying to make $13.
That's tough. Heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl
Like
in all
eggs.
of you,
She had it in her anus and her vagina.
in all of your body
Like
cavities.
tightly wrapped. Here they are, little eggs. Here it says, what does it say at the top? CBP officer intercept woman transporting drugs in multiple internal cavities.
That's so funny, dude.
33 years old. The drugs are hidden in the rectum and vagina of a 33-year-old female U.S. citizen pedestrian border crosser. Smuggling case was not an isolated incident. Over the weekend, CBP officers working at PDN and Ysetla crossing stopped a total of 9 internal carriers who were transporting fentanyl and methamphetamine from Mexico to the U.S. Internal carriers is a fun way to talk about it. It's like uterus holders.
Well, hey, what did you say? What they called us? Containers?
Yeah.
I mean, she's doing it.
She's doing it. Wow. Exceptionally dangerous practice. And anyone thinking about smuggling drugs inside their body or at all should strongly reconsider their choices. Oh, you think these people have choices? These people are dying. They're starving to death. They have no future.
Strongly reconsider their choices.
They just need better counseling.
That's right.
That's all it is.
That's right.
And they need to heal. They need to get into space.
Well,
maybe
show
they need to
that
take that
woman-
lady instead
show
of
that
putting her
woman-
in jail.
yeah.
Maybe throw her in space.
Show
real
that
quick.
woman, Katy Perry.
Her and Amy Schumer up at a fucking
everyone
satellite.
should go up. I'll do it. Me, Amy Schumer, and Meghan Markle in space. That's a show. It's an 11-minute show.
What about Meghan McCain? Would you do it with her?
I would absolutely do it. All of us together. You know, why not?
I'd watch that.
Of course.
I'd watch that. And
As
if they
you
called
should.
it My Son's Pussy, then justice would be served.
Absolutely. Do you do a big Easter thing?
What do you mean?
Just, I don't know. Is it a big, do you do like
my family?
eggs? Yeah. No.
Well, the kids are in high school now.
Yeah,
it's a
right.
little different.
Right.
And they're,
They're not dying
that's
eggs.
just money in those plastic eggs.
Yeah, that's a
They're
good
not gonna
point.
look
Nobody
for 'em.
cares anymore. Yeah. They want money in the
There's
egg. Yeah,
candy
that's a
in the
good point.
house.
Yeah, I remember that's the thing. When you get older, it's just money in it. It's just money. Just
Well,
take
once
money.
the kids realize that there's no magic person that's delivering,
Then it's all bullshit. Just
Yeah.
give me money in the egg.
it's like, oh, it's my parents. Because
That's right.
otherwise they would say, that's weird that Santa's so much nicer to me than he is to those poor people.
Of course.
I guess I'm chosen.
Of course.
That's a weird thing to say to kids.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you got everything on the list, but that kid that gets bussed in from the bad neighborhoods, he got
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. But, you know, kids go, Santa's fickle. Santa likes what he likes. He likes the suburbs. Santa likes landing his sled in the burbs.
He does.
He feels better about it.
It feels
And,
really
you know,
good visiting rich people.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even talk to the Jews.
No. He's not. He knows.
Weird.
He knows. He does his thing.
But, you know, if they're the chosen people, why don't they get Santa Claus visits?
Well, they have other things.
Yeah, but their other thing, like, it wasn't really supposed to be a bunch of gifts until the
Yeah.
Christians started getting all the Santa Claus gifts, and the Jewish kids are like, what the fuck is going on, Mom?
And some of them cheat. Some of them do a little Christmas too.
Some of them have a tree.
Some of them do a little Christmas.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of them
Why
do a little
not?
Christmas. Hopefully they do this
It's
peace.
fun.
This peace in the Middle East. Hopefully, they keep talking about all this. You know, these deals they're all making. Hopefully that the Hamas and the Israel, whatever it is, they get. You know, because
Well, that's
Hey.
one thing that Trump said. If I get in there, 24 hours, the war's over.
that's a tough one. 24 is tough.
That's obviously.
But
not
hopefully
happening.
they figure it out because it is it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
The human toll is unreal.
Unreal.
And, you know, it's crazy.
Some lady just died. She was the protagonist in some documentary, and she just got blown up.
There is an argument to be made that level of devastation and death is worse than you talking to someone on your podcast.
Allegedly.
There is an argument to be made. It's probably not a good one.
The amount
but there
of damage
is an
you
argument.
can do with just talking.
There is an argument to be made that, you know, starvation and stuff like that and people dying is worse than a podcast.
But wait a minute.
I wouldn't make
Wait a minute
it.
before you say that. Have you been there?
Right, that's a good point.
You haven't been?
By the way, how is he in all these wars? Can I just go to wars? By the way, how are you allowed to just go to wars? Is that the way
you should at least
can you just
have the
go to
courtesy of going there.
Can I just go to wars, or do I have to come back and say what people want me to say about the wars? Can I go to the wars and have my own opinions, or do I have to have the opinions?
Not if you want to go back.
That's right. That's right. It's very interesting, this war tourism. How do I get on this war tourism?
Yeah.
I'd like to go to the Ukraine. I
You
want to
should
go.
go.
I want to go. I want to
should
go to all this war tourism.
Do you have any awards that they can melt down and make bullets out of?
Joe, think about this. Do I seem like a guy that has a lot of awards?
Didn't you get one of those YouTube plaques when you hit 100,000?
I don't even know where they send it. I don't know where. I don't know where they're sending those YouTube plaques.
We've got a few of those.
But I like this idea
We'll
of
give you
war
one of ours.
tourism.
You can
I like
send
the idea of going to a war and then coming back, having a very black and white view.
Yes, I've been there.
I get it, and I know, and interesting. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I love that.
You feel better than the other people.
Well, of
because you
course,
say you've
there's a
been
lot
there.
of people. It gets very murky. Most people I know that have been to war have a very murky, complex view of things. But it is good to go to a war and then come back and be as sure as you were before you came.
You don't have to go for very long.
No, you go for an hour.
Couple hours.
It's a lunch.
Yeah.
It's lunch on
Put
the
on
front
a
line.
flak jacket that says press.
Tea on the front lines, and then you come back and you have all the talking. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're on the right side, you probably
Right.
don't get shot.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, there doesn't seem to be a ton of danger for a lot of these people going to these wars. They seem fine.
If you cross that line
Yeah.
and you have a bucket of food with you,
Yeah.
they might light you up.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go. I'll go to any war and I'll anything you want. So if you want to pay for me to go to a war, I will come back and I go, I saw the Houthis. They're terrifying. They are terrifying. Any war you want. And by the way, any country, if China wants me to, you know, I'm doing it.
Will
I'm
you go to
doing it.
Moscow?
I would love to go to Moscow. And I said to my friend, Anna Hashin from the Red Scare podcast, I said, should I go to Russia? She goes, you're spiritually Russian, and the maybe you won't leave. She says the oligarch lifestyle might be for you.
I can see
The
you eating
sweatsuits,
caviar
yeah,
with
the
flip
smoked
flops.
fish. She goes, it might smoking a cigarette on a yacht. She goes, it might be for you. Listening to people's moral justifications for all kinds of things. You know, going, well,
I see your
get
point. I get it.
yeah,
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What happened to those? All those yachts that got confiscated.
I don't know.
Who
It's a great
gets
question.
those?
I bet it's some high level version of like a police auto auction, right?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm thinking. Exactly. Like if
Maybe
the cops,
those are the ones you sail to the war. I don't know.
yeah, when they raid drug dealers' houses and they get those Maseratis, you could buy that Maserati online.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what those yachts are. It's a great question. What happens to those yachts?
Yeah,
those
because-
very luxurious. That was the first problem I had. Obviously, it's a tragedy, the whole Ukraine war. But I thought, frankly, going around and taking these oligarchs' boats, I was against that.
What's weird?
You work hard for a boat like that.
Also, how do you know how much they had involved in the Russian government's decision?
They
Like,
probably had
what did
nothing.
they
A
do?
lot of them had nothing to do. They just earned money in Russia, and they were like, "All right, we're going to sanction everybody. We're going to confiscate everything." And it's like, okay,
But do you think that it was done so that they could make some sort of a rebellion amongst the oligarchs against Putin? Like show them that they're getting hurt?
It could be. I think that there was a decision made at some point to not try to end this. They did not. I don't think they wanted to end this quickly. There was a decision made to bleed the Russian military and isolate Russia and try to use this as a way to drain the power and resources of Russia.
And you think that by capturing these yachts, it creates like internal turmoil?
Not only internal turmoil, but you're now limiting, the ability of these incredibly wealthy people to earn money in countries. You're destroying economic realities and then you're saying to these people, okay, go figure it out. It's what we said to Russia, but they did, right? They got closer to China, they got closer to Brazil, they traded with India. They started an industrial economy. They started producing their own, munitions and things like that. So they were able to kind of start to weirdly build out this middle class. This was the worst. I think it's the worst thing. If you don't want a country to keep invading other countries, you certainly wouldn't put them in the position to be stronger while they were doing it.
Yeah, it's all very weird too with like the killing of that pipeline.
Yeah.
Like aren't more people reliant now on Russian energy because of that?
All of this seems to have had the opposite effect.
Yeah.
All of it seems to have had the opposite from intended effect.
The whole thing is fucking crazy.
It seems odd.
It's just crazy that it's going on so long. I was reading this thing about the amount of money foreign countries that have captured these yachts have to pay to maintain them.
Yeah, that's what.
Why do they have to maintain them? Why can't they just let them sink?
Well, because if you let it go, then you can't sell it, and you can't use it. You can't use that money.
Right. So they're definitely selling them.
That's what one of them says. That the money for one would have gone to Ukraine, right here.
Okay, seizure
Can you get
came
deals? That's
as
the
Washington
question.
ramped up sanction enforcement against people close to the Russian president, pressure Moscow to halt its war against Ukraine. So how many more?
This one got sanctioned because the guy apparently paid $1 million to keep it maintained, and they caught him for doing that. So now he lost his boat. That was in San Diego.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
this is insane.
Jesus Christ.
We should
He
give them.
violated U.S. sanctions by making more than $1 million in maintenance payments.
We should have a day where if the Russia-Ukraine wars ended, we give all the oligarchs back their boats and they do like a regatta, like a thing where they all, with their boats down in Florida or Palm Beach, and they all just are reunited with their boats.
Look at this. Seized
It's a beautiful
yacht
boat.
costs $7 million a year to maintain.
That one was being held in Fiji, so the U.S. took it over because Fiji couldn't afford
Look how
to
pretty
take
it
care
is.
of
It's
it.
a money pit.
How much can you get it for right now?
Well, that's the question.
$300 million.
much
That's
was.
tough.
Listen,
That's a tough one.
maybe if this YouTube thing really takes off.
$600K a month to maintain.
That's a tough one.
Whoa. It said it's been excessive, justifying an auction. They also said talks to have, how do you say his name? Kudenatov pay for the yacht's upkeep have broken down. Yeah, why would he pay for the upkeep when you're going to fucking steal it from him anyway? Prosecutors say in previous court filings that Kudenatov is acting as the Almeida's straw owner to disguise Kermenov's role, and that maintenance payments are essential to preserving a yacht's value.
Me and Sam Talent walked around Monaco. We were performing in the UK, and we took a little break to go down to France for 2 days. And we're walking around Monaco, and we said to the guy, there's all these yachts in Monaco, and we said, who owns these yachts? And he goes, if you look up online the names of these yachts, you can trace them back to businesses, and you trace that business back to a person. And I said, so that person owns the yacht? He goes, no, you'll never find out who owns these yachts. He goes, no, there's absolutely. He goes, good luck with that.
Yeah, it's
He
a
goes,
shell.
it's very hard to find out who owns the yachts. And he goes, even if you think you know, you may not know, or it might be more complicated than you think. There it is. There's Monaco.
Wow.
They like a super yacht. I mean, it's just such an interesting, just a haven of international crime.
So how many people
Just
have
something
that
fun
kind of
about
money?
it.
That's what's crazy. Is like these are all $300 million houses that are on wheels.
This is a
or
haven
on,
of
on the water.
Yeah, this is a haven of international criminality.
And look how close they park to each other. Just
no income tax, no property tax.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, Monaco's fascinating. The amount of wealth that I saw when I was there was crazy. The amount of like expensive cars, they were everywhere, and people were just driving them around like it was a car show. Like it
Yeah.
was everywhere, all
Yeah.
over the street was Ferraris and Lamborghinis and G-Wagons.
It's unreal.
S-classes. It's like
unreal.
everywhere you look, there's Bentleys. And,
Well, those are the people we're talking about. Those are the people who are like, we're living here,
yeah,
and you ain't,
yeah.
and you'll deal with it.
And it's a small spot, too.
Well, they like it like that.
Yeah,
They
no,
keep
Monaco's
it
not big.
nice like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to tap on the window if you want to go in the store.
That might be where I do my podcast from eventually.
You might have to.
Just go to Monaco.
Might be the only place.
I just flee.
Where it doesn't get censored.
Just flee and just live on a tiny boat, like a tugboat.
The end is not good. It would have been really rough if Kamala won. They would have clamped down on you and me.
Yeah.
And everybody like us, I think.
It would have been a fun jail, though.
Would
have been our own El Salvador in jail.
I don't think they would have put us
Yeah,
together.
probably. But all the tech people would have magically became Democrats.
Google
again.
Maps, you can just see a couple of these are just gigantic
Wow.
compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Look at this.
By the way, you know what's funny? The regular ones are also massively big. They're huge.
But the
That's
guys
how
with
big
the
these
regular
are.
ones are really jealous of the guy with the super
Oh, of
big one.
course.
That's what's crazy. They're all keeping up with the Joneses, and they're all fueling AI to take over.
Yeah,
Well, I think we figured it all out.
we
Tim.
did. I appreciate you always having me here to figure it out.
I appreciate you
Thank
always
you.
being here.
Of course.
Anytime.
Thank you, brother.
My pleasure. I'm Your Mother.
On Netflix.
On Netflix right now. It's
Yes.
awesome. You're the best.
Thank
Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate you.